Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone that wants to love some Spellbreak. We are back here, Man of Class, together with Crashy for the first solos qualifier of 2021. It's the Cash Cup right here at Element and Crashy. We got a pretty good list of players to start off this first one. So talk us through it. What we
Yeah.
got?
Yeah, we have a lot of players, a lot of people in the community that I actually know by name, but didn't know we're going to be jumping into the qualifier. So that's really exciting. We got some big names. We got Megaverse, we got Elpadog, Novin. I mean, so many people. Meba, who I actually just recently found out is like Flaming Dragon, which I don't know if that's a spoiler, but maybe I just spoiled that. But he's a very insane player. One of those people that just is constantly at the top of the list when it comes to Tempest play, at least from what I've seen. And yeah, we should have a pretty crazy qualifier. It's going to be solos today, which is super exciting because solos are just, it's a lot of people, a lot of working around the map, trying to get a lot of those points because, you don't want to fall behind. And we have 6 games, of which 4 are going to be scored, and then 15 players out of our like 30-ish players. I don't know what the exact number is, 30 plus players will be moving on to the finals.
Correct. And of course, two qualifiers, one today and one next week. And then we're going to go into the finals. Yesterday, we had trios. Today, it's all up for that solos cup money. And yeah, no money for the qualifiers, of course, but you will get a prize if you get that top place in the solos finals in 2 weeks. Yeah, like I said, good names, a lot of good names. I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, there's players that we know can do well, but I think there's also quite a few players in there that we either have never heard of or that could be some wild cards here and there. Players that come to mind are some players like Solar Bear that very often play a very good Frostborn that can just have those breakout performances. And other than the tournaments we've had before, this is a qualifier that goes over 6 games instead of 8. So there's also fewer games to really pop off, fewer games to really show off, which means that the scores will probably be a lot closer than we're maybe used to. And that makes it all the more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely opportunities to prove yourself here, especially for some of you newer players out here inside this qualifier. But there's just so much that we don't know about a lot of these players. I mean,
Yeah.
heck, I didn't even know that Solar Bear, played on controller, but controller with no aim assist on. So Solar Bear, one of the few like kind of like higher tier Frostborn players out there, which in itself is already exciting. Pulling that out in solos most likely. We know what he can do with it, but also playing without aim assist. So definitely for any console players, any controller players out there that might be watching, you're looking for someone to attach to and kind of root for. Maybe he's your man. But again, lots of people I just know in the community love Dodo, Coach PK, Super Soaker Sosa, Tragos in this event. I mean, lots of really talented players that we just know from the scene, or even just players that we know from the scene, and they're all looking to kind of carve something out for themselves. So I'm looking forward to just seeing those performances as they unfold before us.
Yeah, and honestly, what we're looking forward to as well today is that we're still playing on that first like this is the first solo tournament that we have on the new chapter patch. It's been definitely a far few weeks, so we kind of have an idea of where the meta is at, so to speak. And a lot of it is actually that the meta is relatively open. There's a lot you can do with it, but there has been a lot of toxicologists. I'll say that much. I think that's definitely something that's been coming up a lot. But also Tempest has just been
Tempest,
really good
yeah.
lately. I mean, yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Yeah, so you might not be the two you might combine all the time, but it's definitely two of the gauntlets we're going to be seeing run a lot in the main class, maybe even in the offhand. But yeah, but the one that we're really rooting for to maybe see some more playoff is, I would say, maybe Pyromancer, but it has not really been a popular class since the patch, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I mean, one other person that I think is noteworthy that's going to be inside this qualifier as well is Kukuzi or Plop, as some might know him. And I don't know if he's still playing Tempest, but I have seen him personally on a lot of conduit play. He's been playing a little bit of what I think I remember is like Runic Fluency, Focus Mana, or Runic Fluency, Fervor, and Escapist. Very fast, like in your face dash with that offhand fire gauntlet. So we'll see what he can do if he does decide to pull out that build, because that's a very strong build. Another, player in the scene that we see run that from time to time, Tfal. So really fast paced, like in your face kind of aggressive conduit build that we might see coming out from him. And yeah, Tempest, like you said, Tempest definitely something that's sitting very high up in the meta right now. Has that jump squall buff, maybe too much of a buff, but we'll see how that unfolds. In this qualifier today and in the future Spellbreak like meta in general or balance in general. So we'll see what they decided to do that. But yeah, Tempest has been performing pretty well.
Yeah, 100% it has. And of course, these are all things that are going to be scored because we got to find out how otherwise we can't really decide who wins and who is qualifying for what. So if you want to be up to date with those scores, maybe as we read them out or while we're not reading them out, just go to the Element Discord. There's a Discord link that you can find in chat, exclamation mark Discord. It's also underneath here, Discord to GG slash WG2JCRN. And you also get to the Element Discord. And in there, in any channel you are in, you can type exclamation mark score. You got the current updated scores from the Marla bot that we have right there. You can even get scores for a specific player if you do exclamation mark score space and then the name of the player. That might be a bit more tricky. So you'll be able to figure out. But yeah, up to date scores, guys, in the Element Discord.
Nice, nice. Yeah, like, you knew a lot more about that than I did. I'm a little embarrassed, but yeah, pretty awesome stuff. So,
As long as one
man,
of us knows, right?
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, man, you pulled out all the commands and everything. I was just gonna tell him to go hang out in there. So, but yeah, so one thing I'm thinking about is we do have Trago in this event now. Me personally, and I don't know. I really don't know much about Trago's like competitive history, but I haven't seen him play much competitive. I'm excited to see how he does in these. I haven't seen him in scrims, but Trago is like our resident toxicologist, very very strong toxicologist player. Pulls out that dash rune a lot, not so much on the shadow step as much. And I think anybody that watches Trago definitely knows for sure that he's a very flashy player, has really really good movement, and can kind of pull out the full potential of that build. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he fares in such a stacked event like this. And I mean, again, for all the other players that are just like newer to competitive, maybe this is their first qualifier, first event of the year, or whatever the case may be. It's going to be really exciting to see what all they come out with. For me, I'm like that theory crafting brain machine. I like to see what builds they come out with, because some of these newer players, they might have their own little path. Maybe they're not just following the standard builds that they see on a stream or something. Maybe they have something that they like to work with themselves. Like Solar Bear, for example, he likes to run teleport a lot with that Frostborn build, and I think that's really really cool. He has that own unique carved out like kind of kiting play style, but can also be very aggressive whenever the time calls for it. So it'll always be interesting. That'll always be something I attach to, and we'll be able to make quite a big amount of conversation around. It's just the builds in general, just seeing how people decide to play. How they like to pull things out and what their overall play style is.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that we're talking not just about the gauntlet builds. You're talking about the runes that they pick. Also talk about the talents, how they're running their belts. Maybe there's players that prefer the larger or the smaller pots. We've seen a lot of players prefer the more smaller potions because you can use them quicker naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of players that, especially in solos, potentially go more for the scavenging build, in which potions might not be as important to you. So maybe you can run, something else in there. Just get some not bulwarks, safeguard potions. There we
Safeguards. There
go.
you go. I was
Yeah,
like trying to help
me.
you in my mind too, and I
Yeah,
was just like, I'm
no,
failing.
yeah, no, it's
I'm not doing my
safeguard. Yeah.
job here.
Every now and then, every now and then. No, but honestly, I like the talent builds have mostly been very fascinating to me because we used to always talk about, oh yeah, you always need fervor, you always need recovery, you always need, and it's become a little bit less of a this is what you run
Mm-hmm.
instead of it's a preference. So we see more reckless come out, more thirsty come out, more what am I missing? Escapists come out. There we go. Yeah, no, it's been very fascinating. And sure, fervor and focus mana still have a pretty big place in that meta, especially when you go to solos where every little bit of damage counts because you're on your own. You also see the sustain counting more for certain players because again, you're on your own. So there are options. There are options out there, and we'll see which players tend to go which. And maybe we'll see some class combinations with those talents as well.
Yeah, and one thing I like to bring up, because this has been like a long running story that I've had going on for myself, is ever since I first got into the game and started paying attention to the Stone Shaper class, Megaverse was obviously someone that I was watching. And that original 222 build for Stone Shaper, it was like Runic, Fervor, and Recovery. That was the original build. It got nerfed down, so you couldn't quite run it that way. And just like really watching what the priority from someone as high tier of a Stone Shaper player as Megaverse, how he decided decides what is the most important talent for him. Now, I've had conversations with him, and for me personally, even just feeling like runic fluency on Stone Shaper is just like almost necessary. It's so hard to play effectively when you don't have that gap close on a class that's really grounded a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
he's actually pushed his build. Now, it might be different in solos. I don't know because I've been watching him in team play, but he's pushed his build now into a runic focus build where he's running runic fluency, dexterity, and thirsty. So even pulling out that one cost kind of filler talent, not going to lean into scavenging. He might, again, in solos, he might put that extra point into scavenging. We'll have to see, but really likes to, take advantage of the fact that he has that dexterity, that spring step. He gets so much mobility out of that double runic. It's just a really, really cool play style to see him play and to see how he's adapted that, patch after patch. But man of class, I think we just got some confirmation. I think we're going to be jumping into game number 1 here momentarily.
Soon.
And yeah, we're going to see some kind of crazy action here.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting, gonna be super cool to watch. Like you said, Megaverse with that Stone Shaper, always a player to watch out for. But there's plenty in this lobby, and who's gonna take game 1? And of course, since we're only playing 6 games, 4 of those games that you play will actually be scored due to multiple factors. Either you just somehow dying early, or not getting into lobby okay, or anything like that. 2 of your games you can just delete. We had a low score for some reason, or anything like that. So 4 of these games for every single player will count. They can, of course, choose which 4 games they want, with probably the highest scores. It makes sense. But we'll see whether they're actually going to go over that. Right now, though, we're jumping into it. I already see Alpha Dog, Miba, and Big Boy actually getting some exiles already. As we go into Alpha Dog's Cleo V, straight away finishing off a player named Bump Off Trump. Very likely a bot, but still, hey, exiles count. Exiles count in these tournaments. That's exactly what you need. Get those on. Coach PK already on the board. And when we look at Alpha Dog's build here, actually going for the Toxicologist with the Frost offhand, running the Runic Fluency and the Scavenging and Thirsty. So a lot of sustain. Not so much on the damage amplification, though.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's the Toxicologist class. The class has a lot of built-in damage itself, so he's playing that really balanced build. This has, reset potential, recloud potential, double dash potential, double shadow step, however you want to look at it, however he decides to put that to application. But we jump over to Socks. It looks like he's trying to line up a shot, but it's this early game, and he just doesn't have a ton in the inventory. Does see that lightning strike come down, and now we have an open fight with a Stone Shaper. That Stone Shaper going to be looking to get some damage down on the ground, but Sock's trying to line up a shot. Is he going to be able to connect? Yes, he does. Look how close this is. He does have that Stone Golem in the offhand, throws out a boulder, and no, Big Boy takes him down. Sock not going to be able to stay alive, but look how close and how awkward that fight was, man of class.
Definitely, and we already see so many exiles going down in the kill feed. It's insane. 26 players in the lobby, and you can't tell me that all of those were boss because we got a pretty good queue system going on here. That means at least some of these players have already been eliminated. Luminous Clouds now, who are following on a sliver of HP, will probably burn out here. Let's see if that actually happens. Yeah, there you go. SKTT. It's Ilya taking them out, and Trago gets a kill here onto Susie. There's a lot happening here in this lobby already, Crashy, and we barely get a chance to cover anything because they just don't want us to. They're just too fast.
Yeah, and speaking of Ilya, he does have that same Stone Shaper build. We're going to be watching him on that Stone Shaper. Has that runic dex Thirsty, so good reset potential. Thirsty definitely climbing its way up in the meta. This is no news here. Climbing its way up in the meta with that nerf to recovery. A very, very strong talent that has a lot of reset potential, but just so much mobility in this build with Spring Step Dexterity. It is no game. If anybody in the chat, anybody that's watching the stream has not seen the potential of Spring Step Dexterity, I implore you to pay attention to this one because it's going to be very interesting to watch. But we're moving over. Kemet has maybe a kind of a scary early game here. He's going to be on the Stone Shaper himself. He's actually spell slinging the Stone Shaper, which is very, very interesting, and definitely a build that has some viability. I've actually seen it on Darkbreaker, but no Solar Bear brings out the Ice Lance. Is not going to let that player run away, but the third party might be looking to come in. Solar Bear in a very healthy position, and he actually has the Finder's Keeper, so he might have a little bit more scrolls than in other players, but we'll have to see how this fight breaks down.
Now, the interesting part about that is that the other player had a completely free reign on him, got 2 free Ice Lances off, and Solar Bear not getting hit by either of them. Those are the free shots you kind of want back. And now Solar Bear is on the offensive. You think they would be on the defensive because they weren't hit. They don't have the, well, really the fear of anything. I don't think Solar Bear is afraid of anything in a lot of cases anyways, but, you know,
No,
now
and
it
he
gets
has that
the
harmony.
Ooh, that's a good Ice Lance that comes at them. That's actually a shockwave that hits. Does eventually get that they get that exile onto Ouchers, but still a good effort as Fuff and Nudes take down M Dash and then gets taken out by Megaverse. Megaverse coming in for a slight third party effort potentially there, but at least that's some exiles on the board for both of those players. And yeah, 19 players left in this lobby. It's really cleaning out fast, and that's not necessarily something we're always used to, but it's a healthy start at least. No one is playing too cautiously.
Yeah, it's crazy. You never know if like the first game is going to be super slow or super fast, where people are, leaning into that early potential. They know that they have some room to be a little aggressive because, we're only going to be scoring up 4 games. Megaverse finds another kill in the kill feed here, and we do see Ilya kind of getting into the storm fight back to back. The Stone Shaper fight is going down. Top 10 anime battles. Who's going to come out on top? Ilya does have a little bit of control of the high ground here. He also has that knowledge. So look, he might have got a read. He could read that kill feed. He knows it's Megaverse. And let's be honest, this might just not be the fight to take. So Ilya looks like he might go ahead and back out of this one, and he will live to fight another day.
Yeah, of course you don't have to take all fights every single time, and he has plenty of health left to work with. Even as that knowledge potion builds up, that might come important later. But now we go to Super Soaker Sosa himself, going straight over into this dust pool area, is looking around for a player that's hiding in this small building, which is not where you want to be against someone who has those fireballs and the firewalls as well as the Thunder Strike in their arsenal. But they do seem to be able to get away from this. Dragonfire does proc here. The Super Soaker Sosa has to try and chase down their opponent, but not get hit too much. Already losing almost all their armor, so it's going to try and take a quick armor. Doesn't have the Thirsty, but has plenty of small armor shards in order to get some ticks back up. And gonna hide for a bit more. Actually, not taking this engagement anymore. That's surprising because it looked like they had them cornered.
Yeah, it was just that Ice Lance that connected onto Sosa that really backed him up there. And again, something to note, he doesn't have a ton of shards here. Look at that, the Ice Lance just connecting on the doorway. So Super Soaker Sosa is kind of in a tough situation. Solar Bear finding a kill onto Majin. That's a big, elimination there, a big exile. But Sosa is kind of, again, just not in the best of positions. He does have this like Runic Fervor build on the Conduit, something we talked about a little bit, kind of has taken a very strong position in the meta for the Conduit builds. But we'll see how he can adjust to this because, again, this is not looking good in terms of building a trajectory for a win. He's not going to have a lot of that late game sustain. He doesn't have any more shards that he can pull from, and he's just going to have to find the best loot that he can. Maybe he's going to go ahead and pick up this large safeguard potion, so that's at least a little bit of shielding that he has now. But ultimately, on that edge of the zone, it's going to be pushing in. Coach PK getting a kill, Casp in the kill feed as well. And this one, like you said, cutting down very quickly. We only have 13 players left alive in total.
Yeah, it's not going to be a quiet last circle though. That's definitely there's so many left. Ryan Kip here under fire though, actually getting down to very low HP. Might go down here, but he's fighting back very adamantly and hoping to maybe turn this one around. So far, it hasn't really worked out just yet. And the main problem that Prime Kip's having here is just their positioning. Can't get on that high ground, can't get above their opponent. And it looks like they're trying to get away here, using that Stone Shaper, the Stone Skin to get some armor back. But it might not be enough. No, Prime Kip will indeed go down eventually to Coach PK. And Coach PK now in the top 12, already doing very well with 3 exiles. That's already a score that can be very helpful. We see a lot of players still running around with 0, under which Super Soaker Sosa, who might as well go down here. It will indeed happen. Alpha Dog picking up another one for themselves. And this is going to be a heavy lobby as we get closer to that single-digit number, to that top 10 of the first game. This is a hot and heavy game. It's been tough. It's been tough for a lot of players to really find their rhythm because everyone is just scrolling around the place. There doesn't seem to be a lot of deliberate rotation other than from a few players that have that luxury. But Alpadog here, even he is just stuck in the middle, stuck next to this rift doesn't want to fall into in the open, doesn't have a lot of cover to work with, trying to use the Vanishing Mist to get away from this. He's on such low HP,
my goodness.
almost gets hit by that boulder fall, but gets just enough time to get the Thirsty procced on a few of those pots, and now he's probably going to look for a place to maybe use that legendary safeguard potion that he's got in the pocket. That would be a great tool to use right now if he can proc that Thirsty. That is, yeah, it's tricky, but I think he's found a spot now. I don't think anyone is looking here right now. Just gets it off, and that is a beautiful place to get to full health straight away. That's where the Thirsty pays off. So much time but so much less time needed than normally.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that is that is the difference between, you know, a good player and a top tier player like Elpadog, because he was using everything in the kit, trying to get away, trying to use those vanishing mists despite the fact that those fireballs were incoming. Iliak finding himself in a tough situation, but yeah, Elpa no scrolls on the Thirsty, so that was just brute force positioning, mechanics, getting himself around the map, as we do see Miba or Flaming Dwagon finding that kill onto Casp, I believe, and we do have Ilya looking to kind of reposition, reinitiate here potentially. He does still have that knowledge potion, which could come in clutch. There's 10 players left alive in total. You can see Ilya just buying his time here. That zone is going to be pushing him forward a little bit, but he does not want to be over eager here. He has that player enemy dashing just inside of his face. That might be Solar Bear. Not sure exactly who that is, but look at that now. It looks multiple boulders coming out from the side of Ilya, just putting out a ton of damage now, and he has the time to just kind of slow it down. Again, still has control of that knowledge potion. Now he's going to go ahead and put that into his inventory, or use it from the inventory. Has lots of charges, that dexterity, spring step, tons of mobility if he has to, you know, kind of work past the middle of the field here, but he's just trying to control this outside edge. This is where Ilya wants to be. No more armor shards, so it's all about making plays and the proper positioning to make something happen here. He is going to be going ahead and popping that Toxic Cloud. Ilya just doing his best to take this one smart, rotate on the outer edge, maybe even look for this third party, because this could end up leading to the loot. And yes, Ilya finds a big boulder onto Trago. Trago not going to be able to survive that burst damage coming out. Ilya finds another shot mid-air. Tons of damage coming out from Ilya. The back-to-back follow-up. Will he be able to find a second? We do see Megaverse in the kill feed as well, jumping down to 7 players, Mana Class.
7 players, only a few to go, and the names that are still in this lobby are the ones to watch out for in the first place. Might actually be a few surprises in there. We've got Ilya, we've got Elpadog, we've got Megaverse, we've got, who else is in there? Miba is still alive, I'm pretty sure. This is going to be very interesting to see who gets out on top of this one. And I think everyone that's alive has at least 2 exiles, maybe more. Ilya under fire here, though, has to put up the firewall in order to shield themselves off. A very nice tactic you see players use a lot when they have that fire gauntlet equipped, just to make sure some damage doesn't come through. The only thing that can really get through a firewall is just straight away is, of course, a shockwave, but shockwaves don't really do that much a lot of the time, because you have to see exactly where they are and the vision is impaired, so it's more of a lucky shot you're trying to get through there. Ilya, though, has been able to heal back up, also running that Thirsty with dexterity and runic fluency, and not really a build that provides a lot of extra damage boost. So interesting to not take any of those from the talent, and now gets just bursted down, basically almost down to 0 HP. Has very little left, and that is indeed Miba taking them out, as Megaverse is taking down Elpadog on the sideline. 5 players left in this lobby. Top 5 has been decided for the first game. Who's going to take the number 1 through 5? How it's going to shake out? It's going to be seeing in the next few fights as Megaverse takes on his next opponent.
Oh, look at that. The prediction coming out. Not going to connect with it just yet, but Megaverse has the complete power position. And actually, one thing to note, that Megaverse, one of the few thirsty players in this game that actually has thirsty scrolls. So a lot of reset potential for Megaverse. He can go ahead and back up here and look to pop some of these potions, where a lot of these other players, I mean, the last 2 I think that we've seen that have had thirsty have had no scrolls. It's definitely something to make note of. But that same build, runic dexterity, he does have that spring step, has control of the high ground, and he's going to be controlling this zone. Blue Fu going to fall at the hands of Plup, and that's going to be 4 players left alive in total, and this is Megaverse's game to lose potentially. We do have Miba on the low ground, and he's going to be also very scrolled up, so lots of potential for a win here from Miba. Again, he's going to be finding himself in a pretty solid position, has this outside edge, and it looks like Plup going to be getting into an engagement. That's going to be some boulders coming out potentially from Megaverse. Plup has to keep himself on the edge. He does not have thirsty, so he's trying to just shield up the best that he can out here. It's going to be those baseline cast speeds, those baseline drinking speeds. We do see those fireballs raining across the zone. Plup actually does have himself a couple of eliminations himself. You do see that trail coming out, that ice alacrity trail, and that's probably going to be Solar Bear. So we got Solar Bear, Miba, Plup, and Megaverse most likely.
Yeah, it's it's very likely that those are the 4 we have left, but it still remains to be seen who's going to come out on top. There's a pretty big brawl coming out. Both all the four players are at least in one fight, maybe two at the same time. It's a beautiful tornado to put up there with a firewall. Means it's a lot of danger to get up on that high ground. Maybe making sure that advantage is not as apparent as it otherwise might be. That Plup is just fighting on this low ground together with one other player, but it's keeping out of this fight very nicely. There's three players just fighting around where Plup can just heal up in the sideline with a beautiful large shield potion as well. Now is able to get a drop on a player that did not know they were there, and Plup is just doing a beautiful job of controlling this low ground area. High ground is usually an advantage, but Plup actually almost gets
That tundra.
That's a beautiful flash freeze that comes in just in time to save from the ice lands that Plup was 100% going to hit right there. But Plup is still able to control this low ground. Niba and Solar Bear both have gone down, so it's Megaverse versus Plup, and Plup, after being on the low ground for so long, now takes this high ground, knows that it's Megaverse with that Stone Shaper, and what are you going to do now if Plup is just sitting there? He doesn't want to do anything to you. Well, Plup is going to have to evacuate right there because the zone is coming in and has used that flash freeze with the boulder fall, but still is able to get back up. This is a tough one to win out for Megaverse. If there's anyone that can do it, it is Megaverse. Plup eventually falls down because he kind of has to through that zone closing. There's only one more shot for both these players that could hit if they're going to get damage first off. As my frame freezes, I don't exactly see the last shot, but it's Megaverse that takes down Plup with what I'm assuming is a beautiful boulder fall combo. And that is game one done and dusted.
Megaverse finds one, finds two, finds three. The last three eliminations coming out from Megaverse. And listen, I know he didn't get the job done. He finds himself in that third place position, but that flash freeze, that tundra came out right as a boulder was about to slam onto Solar Bear. He died right after, unfortunately, wasn't able to keep himself alive there, but the beautiful timing of that and Plup really controlling the positioning. It was just to the point where he had to, get down to that lower part of the ground. The shockwaves are coming out. It's forcing a lot of his mobility. He wasn't able to keep himself like completely out of range because, man, even if you're not on the ground for the shockwaves, Megaverse will find a way to hit you with a fireball or a boulder or both. Yeah. So definitely a dangerous combination. But Megaverse, he's definitely one of the top tier players, finds himself the victor of game number one, and that was a crazy end game. I mean, Plup even sitting under that edge, just crouching, getting that full reset, such a longevity game for him. He finds himself at least two places higher just because of that light reset, kept himself low key, was able to keep himself healing, and then just basically waited out the two other enemies to find himself a little bit more points out of that one.
Yeah, it does mean that Megaverse, I think he didn't just get place one. I think he got most exiles as well. Because the amount of times we see him hitting the kill feed is kind of outrageous for this stacked of a lobby. And that's going to be a very good game one for Megaverse. I doubt this will be one of the ones he crosses out. But yeah, it's been a fun one to start off with. Very hot, very fast game. In terms of how quickly the numbers were dwindling, but it was still a super fascinating end game where there were plenty of players in that last zone, where you didn't just have three players in a triangle to fight and then one is just sitting on the sideline. It was everyone was kind of involved in the combat that was going on. That's what you like to see. Don't just have it all be about the third parties. Don't have it all to be about the waiting game and who's most chicken. No, the fighting was happening, and that's what you love to see in game number one. Of course, still 5 games to go in this first solo cup as we're gearing up for game two. But Crashy, that was a very good one to start off on.
Oh, absolutely. And you said something about what kind of decisions could be made, like third partying, sitting back and hiding. And one thing I have to give complete credit to was we were watching Ilya on that outside zone. The zone was pushing him in. He was kind of hanging out. He was completely out of shards. And that's a decision where you can kind of sit there, you can wait out the game, you can get as many points as you can, or you can take action and try to build that win for yourself, find and create that win condition. So he rotates over, he finds a fight, and he jumps into that third party. I don't remember if he got a kill. I think he did get a boulder kill onto Trago. That's right. He does find an elimination onto Trago, but what does that do? It didn't actually get him too much deeper in the game, but it opened the door for him to find more shields, to get a reset off, and he was able to completely fill that bar again, that entire armor bar, but unfortunately he died right after. But that's not the point. My point is that those kinds of decision making, that's really what will stand out. That's what's going to help you build on your skill. You know how to play the game. We all have the mechanics for the game. We understand how the game works, but those micro decisions that make the difference between, just waiting out and dying in a few seconds, or maybe going down a few places later, or even, building yourself all the way to a win. So huge shout out to Ilya for that one. I think that was just a really big heads up play to make that rotation and find that kind of a scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, those like you said, those are the decisions that in the end can make such a big difference in your end score into what you actually get. Because it's not like we're just scoring for positioning here. Like positioning matters, sure, but there's a very heavy bias, or at least a very heavy focus as well on exiles and damage that you do. So even if Ilya doesn't get the exiles there, those damage scores still add up more than that one or two extra places usually would have. So still a choice that is worth making, and just reading the rules can sometimes make a big difference in your decision making, as you can see right there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was a pretty great game one. I'm not gonna lie. That one was pretty fast and loose. Sometimes you almost expect like when there's something on the line, people in online games and competitive games tend to slow down a little bit. And I
Yeah,
think that like if I had to make a prediction, that's probably what we'll see out of game number two. We might see it slow down a little bit. We might see like some of those players, hey, look, they put it on the line game one. They wanted to see if they could fly around, get a bunch of damage and a bunch of kills, and maybe some of them did. They feel confident with how their game one went. But now it's time to rein it back in, slow down, reassess the strategy, think about where they want to drop and what they want to do, and we might see a little bit more of like a full mid game. But man, we got cut down to like I want to say it was like 17 players so fast within like the
it's
first
so
zone or
fast.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so super fast game number one. And hey, look, I love it, man. As long as we get to see some of that action, shout out to our observers, working on the back end. As long as we get to see some of that action, I'm happy to see it.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, of course, like you said, it's that mental thing, right? Like where you have two throwaway games. In the first game, you can just do whatever you want. Go for that high risk, high reward strategy. Go for that aggressive gameplay. Because if it works out, then sure. If it doesn't, you just lose one of your games you can throw away. You still have five to go. You're fine. You still have one in the back pocket. So that decision making, that freedom to be so comfortable with playing those risky strats, those aggressive play styles, is really something that the format supports. So yeah, let's see if they indeed slow down, as you say, or there's players that can actually go for another risky game because they just did a good one. It's always nice to see. As we're dropping into the map pretty shortly, going to begin game two at you at any point in time. And yeah, of course, don't forget, if you want to check the updated scores, see where everyone is at currently, go to the Element Discord and just type exclamation score into any chat, and you'll get an update from our wonderful Marla bot as we get straight into Trago, dropping into the map, trying to get some good loot. I've already got a Spring Step rune and a plenty of potions.
Man, and looking at the kill feed right off the back, unfortunately, Majin is going to go down. And I think I remember him going down quite early last game as well. So Majin is, a talented player, but he's kind of facing that uphill battle right now because he is down 2 games relatively early. He's going to have to claw his way back in this qualifier. So unfortunately for Majin, he's not going to be able to stick into this one. But we do have, oh no, and just as I say that, Solar Bear going down to pull up so early. 2 of our top four, finishers out of that last game is going to go down so early, and that one's got to sting a little bit for Solar Bear. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to stick in this one either. But again, it's just one of his games. We do still have plenty more to go. So unfortunately for Solar Bear, not going to be able to stay alive. But we do have Elpadog here, and I believe this is that epic chest down in Temarin. So hanging out on the furthest south side of the map. We'll have to see what he decides to do. Rocking that same build, already has himself an epic Shadow Step, so maybe he'll be keeping that. He's just going to be working his way through this location, trying to find some loot. Novan finding a kill onto Reinhard. Reinhard, one of those players, again, not someone I'm super familiar with, but has signed up for this qualifier, so we'll have to see what he can do. Same with M-Dash. M-Dash, someone in the scene that, I recognize the name, don't know much about them just yet, but going to fall at the hands of Megaverse. So some of these heavy hitters. Oh, and look at this. Elpadog finds an engagement, is going to be using that Shadow Step, trying to reposition. Will he find the snipe? Yes, he does, connects with that, but he's himself a little bit low as well. Has to be careful that that enemy is going to be wielding that fire gauntlet. The flight route is going to be coming out. We'll see if Elpa decides to chase Mana Class.
He has so many rune charges. He could just overwhelm this player with Shadow Steps over and over. But probably wants to save most of those for Outbreak charges. Actually goes super low. Elpadog gets sniped out of the air. And that's Ilya getting kill on the Elpadog. That's a very early kill on the Elpadog as well. Last time around, they stuck around till roughly top 10. I think top 5 almost even. So that's a very different game there going out for Elpadog. As Megaverse gets 2 kills in the 2 exiles up there. Already had that on M-Dash. Now Uniclu also taken out. So Megaverse not stopping for anybody. He's probably going to try and take another few wins here tonight if at all possible. And then we're just playing for seconds. But that's a little too early to call that right now. There's plenty that can happen in this game and in the coming 4. So let's not give Megaverse too much credit just yet. As good as a game they just had, there's plenty of Spellbreak still to be played as Ilya just loots up. And looking at this build as well, a lot of mobility with that Thirsty, and it does make sense that you don't need as much of that sustain because you're running that Stone Shaper. You can get so much effective HP out of all those Stone skin charges as Ilya just engages the next player, the next Exile on the board. Are they going to get it straight away? It looks like it. That's Kel Rilo out of it. Unfortunate for them, but at least it's good for Ilya. Gets those scores up.
Yeah, and I do like bringing up that build because we did talk about it a little bit before. You know, I brought it up on Megaverse, was the first person that I saw seeing using it or had talked to about using that build. But the thing about it is just like the Stone Shaper does have a very bursty kit. I mean, having 1 or 2 boulders at a certain point in the game is something that, you know, you may not need damage mods for in that particular build. It's all about the mobility. It's about the positioning to get the damage that build can do naturally. Now, we're going to be looking at Lovell here, and he's going to be running a tracking build. So very, very interesting on the conduit. Definitely something we've seen come out a little bit from Gigabyte. Now Lovell going to be running it as well. And tracking has been gaining, I want to say, a little bit of traction in the meta. Not, you know, something that's super top tier and is a pretty expensive cost talent. But look at that. Cass is going to find an exile onto Super Soaker Sosa. So Sosa going to be going down a little bit early. But as we do swap over to Kemet, he's going to be fighting out in the open here. So he does look, he finds that player from the stealth, is going to land that shockwave onto him. He's going to be running a pretty interesting build. He doesn't have the fervor for the offhand win, but that could just be circumstance that he's running that for now. So he's going to be jumping around this point here, sees if he can find something, uses that lightning, or not lightning, the tornado rather, to see if he can suck him in a little bit far away. But this is just a song and dance right here, a dance of ice and fire, whatever you want to call it. So he's going to be taking quite a bit of damage now. That complete switch up. So I do believe there's a third party here, and Kemet's going to find himself so low, he might just need to try to completely disengage from this situation. Not going to be able to do so, as Ouchers is going to go ahead and find that exile. He's not able to stick into that one. What an awkward fight, I gotta say it. But Ouchers is here. He does have himself on the Frostborn class, which I gotta be honest, I've never really known Ouchers to play Frostborn, but I actually think I can remember what he plays much, but might be something a little bit interesting. Is going to be using that recovery talent. We'll see how that pans out for him, but I do think he is finding this enemy player out on the edge, looking to make something happen.
Yeah, gotta hit that Ice Lance, of course. Initial Ice Lance is super important for a Frostborn class. It's taking quite a bit of damage, already lost all their armor. Now, Oucher is in a very precarious position, having to hit a lot of fireballs on this player to maybe turn this back around. But unfortunately, Ouchers with a flash freeze, that all you can really do is put some distance between you and the opponent in that situation to try and hit some more Ice Lances, but it's not looking amazing. They're not really down and out just yet. It's definitely a close fight. But you're going to be in trouble if all you have to do is heal up. Maybe he gets this potion off. It's hard to really tell what's going to happen. It does eventually land it as Plup takes down two exiles on Exaloki and Sign. This is Ouchers trying to still finish off this engagement. The Stone Shaper has closed the distance. This is going to be a tricky one to get away from, and it's Ouchers that indeed goes down to another Shockwave. Parker XD getting dead exile. And they, on their PlayStation accounts, are just getting another on the board. Already got 2.
Yeah, Coop and Cass are both falling down. Megaverse keeping himself on the high side of the kill feed, getting himself some more points, some more exiles now. We do have Parker backing up a little bit here. And again, another Stone Shaper rocking this kind of, what I guess we can call the new Stone Shaper meta build. You know, we saw a little bit of that Runic Fluency, Fervor, Escapist build coming out from the Stone Shaper. But look at that Meba. Oh my goodness, back-to-back Shockwaves coming out from Megaverse. Finds one onto Novin and then another onto Meba. Will he be connecting with the third? He's got this legendary Spring Step, and it is all about the positioning and the timing properly coming out from Megaverse. And this is the strength of that dexterity paired with the Spring Step. He is in full pursuit mana class. He's not going to want to let this one go. This is points. This is how you secure the lead as a top tier player from that of Megaverse. It gets inside the face of the enemy player. Will he land one? Yes, he does. Can he finish up this final kill? Yes, he does. Love Dodo goes down, and that is 4 back-to-back kills from Megaverse in the kill feed.
Yeah, 1 more to go, and then Megaverse just fills it up with an ace. That's what you love to see. 7 exiles on the board. He's just not letting anybody else score points. Like, even if he doesn't need them himself, he could just take them away from others by getting exiles and damage on the players. And that's just, I mean, it's also a tactic, of course. But if you already want to be done after 4 games, I guess this is a tactic that Megaverse can definitely go for. He doesn't have to play the last 2 if he keeps it up this way. Megaverse, though, is fighting another player, trying to get that fifth 5th exile on the kill feed, 12 players in the lobby, so not a lot of fighting going on in this large of a circle in the first place. But he does choose to back off here. Maybe he spotted out a player he doesn't want to immediately 1v1. Gets the fire strike on top of him. Actually, in a bit of a spot of bother here, losing a lot of armor. But you know, you're a stone shaper. You get that stone skin up, extra armor, and Megaverse is in no trouble whatsoever. So you're trying to figure out where you're actually gonna go. The lightning strike's not quite hitting onto Megaverse, and these fireballs, the mid-air boulder falls, they're doing a great job of getting Coach PK, and Megaverse fills up the kill feed.
Wow, I mean, he actually did it. I definitely think that what we're watching here is just flow state Megaverse. I mean, he's really in the zone, really making it happen. And I hate to admit this, but I feel like I just saw a little bit of tech that I've never actually seen. He was high up in the sky running that spring step dexterity, and he actually uses the shockwave to close the vertical gap between him and his enemy, cancels the shockwave with a fireball, didn't connect with it, but still just something that even I hadn't thought about. I haven't really seen that put to play a whole lot, or just really hadn't caught that moment. But Megaverse fills up the kill feed, does find that ace, like you said before. 11 players left. Mana Class, again, another very fast game. We are going to be watching Plup here running a very similar build, or actually just that kind of fast runic fervor kind of build, and he's going to be using it on the Pyromancer class. So the same build that he got that second place with. He's getting a little bit focused here. He's trying to move out of this position, has that spring step. We'll see what kind of a position he can get himself into. But again, I really just like this is fanboy hour. This is like not like professional caster kind of a moment right now. I just can't believe what we're seeing out of Megaverse here.
It's definitely insane, and sometimes, you know, you just have that zone. You're in the flow, and that's what Megaverse seems to be right now. Gets another one onto Veritas. It's just that 6 in a row, by the way, just to be perfectly clear here. Megaverse got 6 exiles in a row before anyone else got anything done. Let's see if that becomes 7 in a little bit, as Plup is not really hitting a lot of shots on this other player. Choosing to take some pots here, not really sure if that's necessary, but you know, you want to heal up, you want to heal up. There is another few boulder falls coming out. That might actually be Megaverse. Gets a 7th one, and then Trago breaks that streak by getting an exile onto Ilya. But Megaverse gets an 8th afterward. Imagine if Trago doesn't get that. That would have been 8 in a row, and I think that's like he's almost at double digits. He might actually be already in double digits in terms of exiles, meaning that he's almost taken down 25% of the lobby on his own, and that's just an insane realization to make. If he thought he was doing well last game, this game is just trumping that. That was just a warm-up. It might even get crazier if we go further on in this qualifier, as we see Plup trying to get the firewalls out, trying to get some damage down on players. To see the kill field happen, it's like, I need to score some. I mean, I've got 3 exiles, but it's child's play compared to what Megaverse is pulling out right now. Plup, though, doing a pretty good job of controlling this engagement. I think there's like more than 2 players around here, so actually needs to be a bit careful not to get third party too hard. But so far, Plup is the one that's dictating the pace, dictating the rotation. We saw him doing a really good job of that in the last game. He's just continuing that pace, just making sure that he's an expert at navigation.
This is such a crazy game, Mana Class, because the wild thing about it is that, like, it would take a miracle in a negative sense for Megaverse not to qualify, maybe not even to place first place in this qualifier here. But what we're watching is we're watching a battle for second place. We're watching everybody else just try to pick up the scraps and find whatever they can, because the gap between second, third, maybe fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh place might be so small because Megaverse is monopolizing the point gain here. We're going to swap over to Trago. 6 players left alive in total. I mean, this man himself is finding himself here toward the end game, but he can only get himself a couple of exiles here. Does have that boulder coming his way. He's going to go ahead and get out of that position, and now using that kind of vanishing mist, kind of looking to split the toxic clouds a little bit, see if he can get a recloud. Is he going to be chasing after this player inside the bush? Trago going to look for a shot. He does connect with that big outbreak, finds the damage, gets the elimination, that exile onto Fluff and Noodles, and now Trago, trying to keep his health high, does step back into that little flame wall there. Is going to use whatever small opportunity he does have to get himself into that vanishing mist, but the fireballs are coming out. That's going to be Plup there. You can see it from the skin. We do have 5 players left alive in total. It does look like the Fortitude connects back onto him, but that might be the Storm knocking it off, and this is a Storm fight here. It does look like Plup keeping that aggression on Trago, doing whatever he can. That might be a dangerous vanishing mist to go for, but no, Plup actually falls. So 4 players left alive in total. Trago going to put himself up a couple more exiles, getting himself some more points. How much time does he have? Oh, I was going to say the Fortitude might be coming back momentarily. Not going to be able to get that back into his hands. That Fortitude it is going to be forced off yet again. That boulder going to connect onto Trago just as it comes out. But Trago taking it slow. He does have that quick evasion. The shockwave going to land down. Trago is just getting focused so hard here, doing everything he can in his power to stay alive. If he waits just a second longer, he is going to get that second shadow step. Now might be able to close the gap again. Always constantly looking for the best opportunity that he can to find that vanishing miss, because it's so key in the end game. It's so key for the toxicologist to be able to connect with that. 3 players left alive. Parker unfortunately going to be exiling himself, or goes down at the hands of some kind of a self-exile, and Trago is just fighting to stay alive here.
Yeah, Trago is honestly in a pretty good spot, though. Has plenty of cover to move around, plenty of space to move away from, but does get that boulder fall straight into the face. That's undoubtedly a boulder fall for Megaverse. The flash freeze comes out to Trago. You might not have enough HP to sustain this. There we go. That's Megaverse taking down Trago, and it's a 1v1 to end it all. And that's going to be Megaverse versus a Conduit player, but actually low on HP here. Might be taken out because he's shocked too. Megaverse, I mean, can you survive through this? Barely has any pots either as well. Basically got nothing to work with. Has to take this engagement against a full HP and full armor opponent. And that's Lovell taking away the opportunity. Megaverse, as crazy as the game that was, does not take the first place, but I don't think he needed it. That's I think Megaverse had plenty of exiles to edge out anyone in that game.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, he had 12 exiles, Mana Class. Like, yep. Again, I think it's like we're in that scenario where Megaverse could literally just watch the stream and probably qualify.
Probably, yeah.
But you know, why not close the gap? Why not take more control? So that was a powerful game. I mean, that was some serious stuff. Really, really crazy. Yeah. Trago keeping himself alive against all odds at the very end there. I mean, there was fire off hands in the hands of both Lovell and Megaverse. He finds himself all the way up to that third place, gets himself a couple more exiles. So Trago really showing up on that round. And again, the thing about it is, like, you can look at Trago's score and say, like, okay, cool, he made it to third place. He got himself 4 exiles. That's no big deal. But you know, when Megaverse is snuffing out every potential to earn anything, that's probably a gigantic performance at this stage in the game. So really, really solid job from Trago. Lovell going to be using that conduit build again, that runic fervor build. Very, very fast and loose conduit build. He's going to find himself game number 2 winner. And so surely that's going to bring himself up in the placements as well. But wow, man, I'm really like, I'm kind of struggling here to say anything else other than Megaverse.
It really is. But then again, if you look at like the way this game plays out in general in solos, if you get anywhere above 5 exiles, you're usually very happy with yourself. Like, you know, first of all, finding enough players to get those exiles can be a challenge in and of itself, other than like the later circles when everyone gets a bit closer together. And then with the speed these lobbies are clearing out, especially, I mean, after the first zone, there's usually less than 25 players left. So if you haven't gotten those 2 or 3 exiles on the board by then already, it's going to be very hard to keep that up and stay alive in the first place. So, Trago's score is definitely something that comes up. And of course, since Megaverse is kind of draining everyone else's scores by taking so much for himself, it is hard to come by those points. But, you know, after these first 2 games, I will say that I do think this playing field below first place is all open. There's a lot of shifting going around already after these first 2 games. Of course, we have no clue where it's actually going to get up because people can still delete their scores from 2 games. So 2 games, so for some of these players, they might not even have counted yet. But it's a good start. It's definitely a very exciting start. And like you said, everyone's kind of playing for second at this stage. But what happens if all of a sudden Megaverse's performance drops off? What if he just dies straight away in the next 3 games? There's still potential for to turn it around. I'm not seeing it happen, but it could be. It's always a chance, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing. I mean, at this point, you almost have to ask yourself, like, do I know what skin that, you know, Megaverse might be wearing? Like, am I able to avoid him for the sake of letting him continue to do what he does? I mean, I know that sounds silly because, like, in a competitive environment, you want to be able to take everybody on, but these are those decisions that you have to think about when you land somewhere. And say maybe in scrims you're used to running into Megaverse earlier in the game because you know he lands near you. I mean, these are those kind of decisions that could change a course of action to get somebody deeper into the game to potentially earn more points. And And as for Megaverse, he's earned himself the padding to try something new. If he wanted to pull out a completely different build, if he wanted to go for a completely different play style, or really put something to work in the qualifier, I mean, I think it's almost safe to say that regardless, he's probably cinched himself a top 15 placement. But
Probably.
even so, I mean, this has just bought him so much potential to do what he needs to do. But lots of
Yeah.
players are probably sitting pretty neck and neck, and that's going to be the story that we're looking to build here. Because I can talk about Megaverse, I can say his name every few seconds, but we have to start now identifying the players that are doing well just below that top tier performance, because those are going to be the ones that start to climb over each other game after game. Because right now, whatever the points are, they're extremely volatile.
Yeah, every game after this, they will be sticking for at least one player. You know, like I said, first two games might have been deleted for some players, which means that the next game is the first one that will actually count. But we know that the next game is going to be counting 100% for a part of these players, which is great. Last game before halftime, of course, as well, because we do 6 games. And if you want to keep up to date with the scores, because I know we haven't really talked about the actual detailed scores just yet, you know where to go. Element Discord !scores, and you will actually get the updated scores as they are from the Marla bot in order to let you know where everyone is, what their scores are, and the details. You know, kills, so exiles, damage, position, all of that. So it's looking pretty good on that. As we drop into Miba, of course, formerly known as Flaming Dragon, but not anymore going by that name. Go straight after their first exile right here, already dropping straight next to another player in this Timber End area. Are they going to get this exile? Is it a bit of trouble? So might not actually want to go for it with the limited resources they have available to them. But you know, with all that extra damage from the focus mana, with the fervor, with the thirsty, you could take that risk. It looks like Miba does maybe want to go for that. Is also trying to simultaneously loot a little bit. Sees a knowledge potion lying around. That's a very valuable tool to have. It does get fireballed in the back. Does yeah, have a swivel. Using the chrono rune, this is the one thing they can actually find. Very interesting choice, and actually able to get straight into the face of another player. Gets the double shot on the soul. Goes very low here still. Needs to be very careful not to get taken out by the other player that was around there as well. But I think he's been able to dip, dodge, and dive away from this. And I don't think they know where Miba has gone. So Miba getting away from that in a pretty lucky situation, but also skillful hiding away, gets finally into the engagement with this other player, able to heal back up with the chrono rune. Very creative use of that, of course. I mean, that's what it's for, but it's not a rune we see often in play, and Miba making it work here. Already got one exile on the board. It looks like this might be number 2. There we go. That's Umbra taken out as well. A double for Miba to start off with. No belt, no pots almost. Very little to work with, but makes it work. Oh no!
Oh, and look at that. It's just
Oh,
back-to-back fights. And the
that
funny thing
is not
is,
okay.
I kept wondering if any of these players were Elpa, because we're down here in Timber End, and sure
Yeah.
enough, the thing about it was that I saw one of these players wearing the Conduit Gauntlet, and I wasn't sure if it was actually Elpa or not, because I just wasn't sure if he had changed his build-up. So Elpa Dog comes in on the complete tail end of that fight, is going to go ahead and take out Miba. Unfortunately, he did everything in his power to stay alive there. He scored himself a few points, so maybe not all for nothing. But we are going to be jumping over toward the center at Casp. Casp is going to go ahead and use one of these potions, see if he can grab that knowledge potion. No, he's going to actually leave that there. Doesn't want to let his enemy have that, but yes, he does grab it. The enemy player is going to connect with that knowledge potion now, so Casp is looking for that full pursuit. The Dragonfire combo coming out. Is he going to be able to keep up? So he's going to be using that Vanishing Mist, just chasing around. He has this player on the complete back foot. So he does. He catches up to Ilya, not going to be able to stay alive, and Megaverse already yet again back in the kill feed. But hey, an early elimination onto Ilya, and actually a lot of these players are already starting to fall. We're getting close to that like half player count point, so we do see lots of players in the kill feed. Plup finding himself one. WMV, where's my virginity, is going to find himself one as well, and Rusko actually going to be in this game, so Rusko finds himself an elimination as well. That exiles. We do move on to Lovell, and now this is actually, I think, the first first time we've gotten to see, potential drop spot from Lavelle. And don't know if he keeps it pretty standardized, but he's going to be playing that conduit yet again. He's going to be rocking that tracking build. We do see him getting into this engagement here on the Dust Bowl hold. So this far north side of the map, actually one of my favorite spots to land lots of loot. So if you can really score yourself the win here, you have so much to work with. Kind of using that shadow step closes the gap, and that's going to be Love Dodo not going to be able to stay alive. Megaverse finding another one as we move around the map to Super Soaker Sosa.
AMV taking out Prime Kip 2, Super Soaker Sosa in an engagement straight away here, using their fireballs, using the lightning strikes, but doesn't get away from Plup, and Plup has been doing very, very well already tonight. Did maybe not have the full pop-off game last time around, since they did go down before that top 5 hit, but plenty of exiles usually, already got 3 on the board this time around as well, and their mobility, their positioning, that's really what Plup is so good at right now. It's not even just hitting all the shots, it's not even using the abilities completely appropriately. I mean, they're also doing a good job with that, don't get me wrong, but it's that positioning. That's really what we keep coming back to when we look at Plup, as Exaloki actually gets a beautiful boulder fall mid-air onto their opponent player, trying to get away from this fight to maybe be the third party rather than the first party in that fight. And actually doing a pretty good job of that, using the invisibility rune of all things. It just looks like they haven't really had a good chance to properly loot, and that's what we keep seeing with these players. The ones that are looted up are the ones that just haven't been able to fight early and get all the loot from their opponents. That keeps being the trend. We keep always repeating it, Crashy. Best loot is the loot you get from your opponents at Megaverse, showing that by getting 5 exiles and it just fully stacked on their equipment.
I mean, at this point, he's just taking advantage of the home field, right? Going to be using this North American ping to the best of his ability, just kind of hanging out now. Megaverse taking a little breather, grabbing a little sip of water. But yeah, he does have the 5 exiles to his name. Only 15 other players between him and another first place victory. Unfortunately, wasn't able to close it out in that second game. But again, not something that matters too much. Oucher's going to be finding himself. I called him Oucher's. Wow, Oucher's. I guess I shouldn't say his old name. I don't know. Oucher's finding himself an elimination, an exile in the kill feed, and now Majin, someone that we really need to pay a little bit of attention to, because it looks like, as you can kind of tell by this game, struggling a little bit, but he has actually fallen down 2 games very early. So Majin really, this game 100% is going to count. At least one of the 3 games is going to count for him, because he does not have a choice to wipe out 3 games. So Majin just doing his best, using that knowledge, throwing out as many of those boulders as he can. But this is that situation, man, class, where he is just struggling. He has nothing. He's most likely been shoved out of every single loot position. And look at that. We got, an American sniper coming out from Solar Bear. I don't know what to say, man. I was thinking of the name, Chris Kyle, coming out from the top of that building, just wiping him out. So Majin down 3 games, and Coach PK exiling himself might have just stood a little bit too long in that puddle. But Elpadog now getting into engagement here at the Halcyon, Fort Halcyon. He's going to be falling a little bit low, and a little bit more damage coming his way. He's just trying to hide out here. That Focus Mana Fervor Thirsty build, very high damage, high burst, kind of glass cannon build for the conduit, because you don't have as much mobility as you could, running that runic fluency, but so much damage potential. He's going to close the gap with that dash. No, just going to take a little bit more conservative and just try to lean on that Thirsty for a bit of a reset.
Yeah, Elpadog has that luxury, like you said, because of that Thirsty. And that Focus Mana is just helping him out so much together with the Fervor to get the early damage out, especially when we look at the Conduit build. But even with the Fireballs, that helps out a lot. Gets the Lightning Strike kill here on the Helmi. And straight away going into the next one. Of course, 3 exiles on the board wants a little bit more, and Elpadog is definitely hunting for it and is definitely going to get one. Oucher's going down 2, and then we're already in the top 10. 10 players left in this lobby. Elpadog is one of them. Megaverse is still in there, as well as Fluff and Nudes. Trico just gets taken out, though, so they're not going to make it further. But that's 9 players in the lobby, and it just, as soon as you update on how many there are left, there's just less straight away. Like, you never are updated.
Absolutely. And Elpadog taking it slow. He was able to kind of catch this third party, gets himself a couple of exiles, and this buys him a lot of time to just play around with the loot. He's reading up all the scrolls. He's maximizing his potion potential. He's going to go ahead and heal himself up and get right back into the zone. So Elpadog completely controlling this, and look at the damage coming out. The Fervor Focus Mana on the Conduit is going to use that Lightning Strike, has that Shadow Step as well. I believe he did change runes. So now Elpadog getting himself a little bit low, but finds the tracking. Will he connect 100? And oh, yes, he does. Exaloki is not going to be able to stay alive. Elpadog putting that mouse and keyboard aim to the test, and yes, sir, he passes.
Definitely passes right there. That's number 5 on the board. Elpadog might actually be challenging Megaverse in terms of most exiled this game. See what that turns out. Long range lightning bolts trying to fight against a Frostborn user, or at least an Icelands user. That's not an easy feat, but Elpadog uses his firewall shield in order to get another scroll read, and that's almost a fool. That's definitely has been getting educated this game around, only missing one on the fervor. And that's exactly what you like to see if you're in that position in the late game. Mega First currently in an engagement with another player right up in this dust pool area. Actually getting to third party again. Double boulder fall, trying to get some damage off, but actually missed both of them. There's the shockwave. Gets that one elimination on the level. And now, will you get more? Well, that's all up to who you're engaging on. Megaverse trying to go straight down to it. You see the speed at which they just drop with that shockwave. It's amazing to see that. It's just the, yeah, that's obviously the bedrock just completely coming in there. The Megaverse trying to get this down, trying to get those last 2 fireballs, those last 2 shockwaves. And there it is. Gets Fluffy Nudes out of there as well. And that is only 8 exiles, I would say. No, 8 is
Wow.
it's just a ton of exiles in this game. 5 left in the lobby. Top 5 has once again been established. We have Casp, we have Elpadog, we do have Megaverse, and then we have 2 other players. Well, I'm not quite sure which they are, but I guess we'll find out sooner or later. Because, you know, game is not that long.
Yeah, I mean, not long with the speed that these players are playing at for sure, Mana Class. They are just flying around the map, doing everything they can to completely assert some of that dominance. And Elpadog finding himself, you know, catching a stride here on the Conduit, has changed up that build. And that's one thing builds beautiful storylines, to be able to talk about the changes that these players are making. We do see that Alacrity that might be Solar Bear, maybe, potentially. We're going to be seeing a little bit of chase coming out from Megaverse. Does find that long range slams. He's going to find a lot of damage, but it does look like he's just in full pursuit, is going to be chasing after this Alacrity. And that's one thing about this build. If you haven't seen it, the chase potential coming out from that dexterity, the runic, and the spring step is insane. Has this player on completely one hit. Is going to land that tail into that slam, and that is not going to be enough damage to get the kill. They did actually, if you remember, they nerfed that like the very end of the shockwave damage, so probably just a little bit short of getting that kill, as it does look like Pluff is able to secure that exile for himself. Was going to be Solar Bear falling down, and now we do have some Flame Wall sitting, just trying to stay safe from this Ice Lance. That top player potential is going to be Plup sitting on that high ground, but swapping back over to Megaverse, we just are getting some mobility out of Megaverse here, and he's going to be in the center of the zone, a little bit of a dangerous spot to be in, so he's going to go ahead and start repositioning toward the edge here. Cass is going to be hanging out here, you know, toward this northwestern side of the zone. We do have 4 players left alive in total. He does have 3 exiles for himself, and rocking that 2-2-2 toxicologist build, does have some knowledge that he drank up as well, and he's looking for those long range shots, just taking it easy, doesn't have to force himself into any kind of a negative position. This is actually, again, another one of those really solid games when you look at the overall grand scheme of where the point distribution has been. So Cass was kind of feeling pretty good about this performance, I have to say.
Yeah, I think all the players that are currently left are actually looking fairly decent in terms of exiles and positioning. Obviously, they are all in the top 4, so that's already good point percentage there. But the exiles have been on point for most of them as well. Biggest challenger in terms of score in this game right now is probably Elpadog. I mean, Megaverse, I think, still has more exiles, but you know, you're getting close-ish as Elpadog, so you can almost matching that score. You might be able to win. This is Elpadog under pressure, using that flight rune to get away from his engagements, probably to heal back up. Has quite some shield potion and shards left. Trying to shoot a lot back, but that's a very big Stone Shaper damage coming at you, as well as some Ice Lances from the side. This is not a good position for Elpadog to be in, and it will eventually probably go down, but maybe he can turn it around. They can be able to get away from it. Doesn't look like it. It's going to be Plup taking them out, and Plup, again, in such a good position to maybe get away from this, or try at least find a good footing to stand on, taking away this engagement, and looking to run away from, which probably is Megaverse, because Cass was nowhere near this in a little bit before this. So Plup versus Megaverse, and then Cass maybe for the third party. Let's see where this turns out, as Plup is still on full HP, doing a great job of staying alive and not getting hit here.
Yeah, and you can actually see some of those toxic sprays starting to come out now. So that 1v1v1 starting to ensue. So we do have Plup just kind of sitting on the outside edge. So he's going to be looking to maybe third party in toward Casp and Megaverse. So we do have our final 3 players. And look at that. Plup finds the Ice Lance directly into Megaverse. Plup, you know, kind of monopolizing the kill feed for himself. Finds 1, finds 2, finds 3. 1v1. Going to be Casp going up against Plup. So Plup is definitely doing well in the standings here. He is going to see that and find that little spot on to Casp now here on the lower side here. Is he going to be able to connect with some big damage? Yes, he does. Trying to close the gap. Plup just looking to finish. Will he be able to do so? Find some damage, and there it is. Plup is going to find that 4th exile in a row, getting himself to be the winner of game number 3. He fell short. He fell short to Megaverse, but he's going to go ahead and take that one. So it's got to be a pretty good feeling there for sure.
Yeah, and that's like a number 2 and number 7-ish, I think it was in game 2, and now a number 1 spot. So Plup also looking very good, basically unqualifiable. This is great to see for a player like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely the exiles are starting to pile up for quite a few of these players. I mean, if you get the scores after the halftime, we can very clearly show you this top 5 that's going to ensue. We're not quite there yet, of course, because we still have to actually calculate some of them. And talking about the scores, go to the Element Discord, type in !scores. You'll be able to tell exactly who is standing where with what scores. We update them as soon as we get them in. So you'll be able to live update your own scores there as well. With that being said, though, Crashy, that was a very exciting first half. And if we look at this right now, it still looks like a battle for second place. I mean, Megaverse on top. No doubt, keeps getting the most exiles, keeps getting high placements, nowhere out of top 5 ever. And I mean, he can just lean back and put up his feet and just let it ensue. But on the other hand, super interesting battle for second and all the way up to 15th if he keeps monopolizing the kill feed like this. If he keeps monopolizing the scores, the exiles, the damage, the positions, that just creates such a different dynamic below that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that Megaverse has, pretty much confirmed his spot as a finalist. It doesn't matter where he lands. I mean, after 3 solid games, 3 scored games out of 4, there's pretty much no way I think anybody can completely push him out of top 15. So, battle for second place, battle for whatever you want to call it. This has been the Megaverse qualifier for sure, but lots of good performances coming out. Specifically, Plup, we're starting to see some of that consistency build. He's getting himself the exiles. He's getting himself the damage. But again, another really, really good performance coming out from Casp. I think he had at least 4 exiles there in the end game, if I remember correctly, using that toxicologist build, finds himself in a second place finish. Like, that is going to stack up very quickly after we've had so much point gain again from that one player, a couple players in the games. So, Plup, Megaverse, probably first and second place right now, but it's pretty much a toss up for third, and it's going to be that constant fight looking out for second place. So we are 3 games down. Again, we're going to be playing 3 more games, going to be swapping regions, and we will be scoring a total of 4 out of 6. So top 15 players, you got to make it happen. You got to get in there. So this is that point in time where we've already seen 3 really fast games. I don't know if the players can keep that consistent. Do they keep flying around trying to close the gap a little bit? They play it a little bit slower and see if they really can creep their way towards that top 5 positioning. We'll have to wait and see. But pretty crazy qualifiers so far. It's been a blast, man.
It really has been. So don't go anywhere. Just maybe get a little bit of a drink, a little bit of a snack, but don't tune out because there's at least another half coming at you. These Elements Solo Cash Cup qualifiers, first one of 2, then finals afterwards. We'll see you right after the break. Just a few minutes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We got a beautiful thing going on here, which is the Element Solos Cash Cup. First event that we've got going on in 2021 for solo Spellbreak players. And we've already had the first half of the solo qualifiers with one player standing out above everybody else. But after that, it's getting quite close, Crashy.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice gap, but I gotta say, like, getting yourself to top 15 right now, it's kind of open. Like, it's all going to be about a little bit of a good performance and consistency going forward, because the difference between like 15th place and like 16th place is basically nothing. So for the players that are sitting pretty right now, you're not really sitting pretty. You gotta work a little bit harder. And for anybody that's right outside of it, you just gotta push in, get a little bit consistent, find yourself a nice little game. You might find yourself up there. But I think we're gonna go ahead and pull up the scores. We might have them for you this halftime as we move into the EU servers. we're going to be looking at the top 5 scores here, and look at that gap. G3 Megaverse sitting at 1279, a 500-point gap over Plup. QQZ is going to be sitting at 779. Alpa Dog in third at 588. Fourth, we do have Trago at 553, and fifth place is going to be Casp at 513. So still a lot of room to move around just here in the top 5. I mean, granted, outside of first place, but still quite a big gap there.
Yeah, and we talk about these first 5 players where that gap definitely exists between one, maybe even between 2 and 3. But after that, it gets quite close. And you look at the rest of the scores, that just keeps on progressing. Like there's never more than maybe 40 points between any of these players, which is great to see. And that also means that a lot can still happen in the second half. We've had 3 games, so 3 games to go. 2 games players can still like just knock off. So anyone that's still in like 30, even the 33rd place players right now could technically still come up into the top 15 because there's top 15, 15th place is 230 points. That's really not a lot of points right now for the game. So anyone really having one good output breakout performance essentially qualifies you, which is a very well, honestly, very exciting thought for anyone that's still a qualifier. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can actually do if you look at this list, right, of these players that are in this top 15, or rather the players that aren't in the top 15, there are a few names that maybe stand out a little bit. One of them is SK Margin. Margin, we know to be a more than decent Spellbreak player, is currently sitting in that 21st spot because he's just been exiled so early. And that's just a shame to see.
Yeah, he hasn't had the best performances just yet. He did have, an early game where, like one of the first games, I believe, where he did do a little bit. Yo, shout out to Timmy on the sub there. We love our man Timmy, our fellow caster. Definitely want to show him a little bit of love. And speaking of love, we had a couple of raids come in from Tacos really early on, and then Trago as well. So shout out to you guys. I meant to bring that up earlier, but yeah, so Majin hasn't had the best performance just yet. But again, luckily for him, I guess you could say, we find ourselves in a situation where there is open room to close the gap on some of these points because these points are, rather close to each other. Even if you're sitting all the way in the bottom or very close to the bottom, you can still find a couple of games, and that really could project you at least into a qualifying position. And that's what today is all about. We do have the Solo Cash Cup from Element. It's all about this qualifier, trying to get yourselves there. So if you can make it at least into the top 15, you can kind of shake off that rust, get back into some scrims, catch yourself into the Element Discord. If you guys in chat aren't in there, definitely make sure that you join the Element Discord if you want to look up the scores or just jump into scrims, make some like-minded competitive players as well. Definitely get involved. So we'll see what Majin can do moving forward. But again, we are going to be moving into our second half of the broadcast here, second half of this qualifier, which means we're going to be moving over to the EU region.
Yeah, EU region coming in, that might be ping changes for, well, basically everybody. Whether you're in EU and it's going to be favorable, whether you're in NA, it's going to be unfavorable. That might change a lot. A lot of these players that we haven't seen doing amazing might actually get an advantage out of this. I actually even know players that prefer playing on ping, like higher pings. So could also be an option. There's always advantage for someone coming out and disadvantage coming out for others. Might shake up the scores. Like we said, 3 games to go, 3 games down. Halftime has been over. So all it is, wait for game 4, drop into it, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be exciting. I'm mostly because you talked about this before the halftime ended, Crashy. You said, are they going to be able to keep up this pace? Are they going to be able to keep playing this aggressively, this fast? Are the lobbies going to be clearing out as fast as they are right now? And to a degree, that might have had something to do with players just trying to get ahead of playing on EU. Trying to get ahead of playing on that ping, just making sure they got as much scoring done in NA as possible, and then they maybe have one good game in EU, the other 2 they are just throwaway games. But I don't think a lot of players have that luxury still.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you find yourself in a position where maybe you haven't changed up your strategy, that might not be the best thing to continue to do if you're not doing so well. It might be time to make a little bit of alterations at very least. Try to stay alive or change up your drop or whatever the case may be. It's hard to say what these players can do to change their circumstances. But again, even for some of the players that are sitting at like 300, 400, and 500 points, they haven't had monumentous games, but they're doing well relative to the overall standing. So even if some of those players can stay consistent, they're going to find themselves, easy top 10 placement out of this qualifier, which means they're going to guarantee themselves a spot in the finals. So we'll see if that pace changes, because I am curious. I mean, we're deep into a qualifier now. We're halfway there. And, for some of these players, you have to imagine that some are basically forced to speed up a little bit, where others might want to take a little bit more conservative. They, again, for Megaverse or even for, Elpa or Plup or some of them sitting in the top 5, they may just change up their classes a little bit, get a little bit more practice out of it. They know they're most likely going to be secure going forward, or they might just try to at least sink in one more solid game to guarantee their performance. But we'll see what happens. I personally think that we're probably going to see a very similar pace. I really didn't expect it to be so fast paced throughout the course of the first 3 games. But then again, when you have Megaverse dropping 12 exiles in a single game, maybe it's really not up to the entire player base in the qualifier. It might just be up to the person that's forcing the fight. So he definitely leans pretty heavy onto that W key. But game number 4 is upon us. We're going to be dropping in right now. We'll see who we got. It does look like we already have still a pretty full game. Nobody's dead just yet. We do have Lovell getting into a bit of a fight early, and this is not the best position to be in. He does have this enemy player really starting to push that offensive, push the advantage. He does have shields on him as well, and Lovell has to find some kind of way to turn this around. And look at all the damage coming up from Lovell. He is completely changing the game here. The fight is just going in his favor, but no, unfortunately not going to be able to stay alive. Wizzy is going to find that last and final hit, but oh my goodness, Lovell was just doing the most there.
Ooh, Trago going down early as well. That's not what you love to see. Trago still in a relatively high placement, so will most likely be fine. But yeah, there's definitely a lot going down here. As the Masters going down to both Ouchers and Sign, and Plup going down early to Ilya. That's a big hit, though. Plup is very high up, can definitely have a throwaway game here, but it's still a good shout here. Gets Ilya get that early exile as Megaverse does not slow down. Already gets that first one to try and hit. And we go over to Banehell Keep, which is so heavy on the quests nowadays that players just going to be dropping there even in tournaments. Soth is doing a great job of trying to evade this damage with the flash with the mobility. Doesn't quite get up on the tower, but actually trying to distract this player with a few shots and just run away the other direction. Might not get away alive from this one, though. It's going to be a super, super hard one to get away from. Has the Ice Lances charged, but Soth on this low HP with no potions, with nothing to speak of. How are you going to get away with this? Are you just going to try and rely on this legendary frost gauntlet? You could do that. Maybe you'll get some good Ice Lances, maybe, but has to find some purchase, has to find some way to heal back up, because with this little HP, anything will damage you. I mean, Wind Shear almost gets him down.
Yeah, we do see some of our qualifier players finding some kills in the kill feed. And Soth, he stepped on the gas there a little bit. Look, the enemy player is starting to come back toward his direction now. So the fight is not over. You have to wonder if that enemy player will just full disengage and give up this POI. But it doesn't look like that's the case. The Banehelm Keep 1v1 is in full effect. Soth does have that high ground control, and he's been able to keep himself in it. But a big boulder going to be coming out from the enemy player here. And no, that's Ouchers closing the gap with that dasher and is going to land that final shot. So unfortunately, Soth did get himself in a more comfortable position to fight, but Ouchers just completely closes that gap, and you gotta love watching someone really step on that gas and just turn a fight around. Now, we're gonna be moving over to the Banehelm, or rather, the Halcyon location. Bluefu gonna be taking out Elpa Dog, so that's definitely a big turnaround, big turn of events there. Elpa Dog gonna be going out a little bit early here. So again, another one of those games, or one of those players that can kind of afford a throwaway game. We do have quite a bit of action coming out here. It does look like Coach PK finding himself another elimination, another exile, and Fluff and Nudes is not going to be able to stay alive himself. We do have Novin just trying to find some snipes here. This is going to be on that Pyromancer class. Got that focus mana, looking for some big hits. But player 12, we got a little streamer mode kind of popping off in the kill feed as well.
Yeah, definitely, and streamer mode, whoever it is, definitely has been doing okay, because they've already got a few exiles on the board. Would be quite funny if the streamer mode actually wins the entire game, wouldn't it? Because then we just have no idea who actually won, other than whoever just pops on the kill feed. That being said, though, Nova's doing a great job sniping it out of the sky. That's not going to be an easy one to get away from. Nova is going to try and chase that down as well, because, of course, with some extra mobility and extra other tools, you can still get that exile out. Undoubtedly, this player will have healed up a little bit, though.
Man of class, it's been done. Meba took out Megaverse.
Oh,
It's
no,
been
that's
done.
early, though. And
Yeah,
honestly, like,
early-ish.
if anyone can, Miba is definitely one of those players that in a straight 1v1 can take on Magaverse at a good day. But, you know, maybe the ping helped, but doesn't make too many excuses. Miba is just a good player, right? It's definitely not surprising. We're already at 16 players, Crashy. It's going ridiculously fast. They are not slowing down whatsoever, as Novan was chasing down the player that they hit mid-air, but is not really able to follow up on that. Is now actually under so much trouble at going down here to Super Soaker Sosa. That is well, actually, no, going down to
Yeah, that was
Ilya.
a little
Super Soaker
convoluted
is
there.
Ilya. That's a third person. That's a third party that come in. I mean, eventually the same players for the XL, right?
Yeah, then AMV comes in for
Yeah.
some looting as well. Yeah, that's such a funny turn of events there.
Once a piece of that cake, 14 players in this lobby left. It's insane how fast they go, even on EU.
I mean, I said it. I really just didn't think that the pace of the game was going to change too much, but we did have Super Soaker Sosa, you know, kind of steamroll in, find himself a third party. Ilya was able to grab a kill onto Novin. But we have AMV just kind of chilling here, picking up some loot for himself. Look at all this. The lightning strike does come down though, so AMV might be in a little bit of trouble. And look at the damage. The shred just coming out towards AMV. He's going to be looking to reposition. Is going to be on that Pyromancer class offhand. A very balanced 2-2-2 build, but the aggression is coming out against AMV. He was able to quickly reset just a bit with that full, you know, thirsty that he does have in the pocket. So we'll see if he's able to do something about this. He does find that knowledge potion as well, and this is a dangerous position to be in because you really lock yourself in here. He's going to be able to get out, drinks that knowledge potion, spams out the boulders, trying to turn this around. Is going to use that flame wall to fly out the Firefly. AMV getting so aggressive, but where's my virginity? Finds a quick snipe. The third party is back to back here, Mana Class. So we do have AMV falling down at the hands of Where's My Virginity, and he is going to be in full pursuit. That Tempest offhand ice is going to be using that Spell Slinger, does have that rune swap and rather gauntlet swap potential, and this player is going to be very low. And yes, Super Soaker Sosa not going to be able to survive. The two players that found themselves in the third party getting themselves third party, but it is not over just yet. So Where's My Virginity going to be looking to finish up this fight as well, potentially looking for a snipe, not going to connect as things are going to slow down. But 10 players left alive. I feel like this game just started, Mana Class.
Yeah, it's really been going even faster than the ones we've had on an A. It's actually been going faster than we even could imagine. Majin's still alive, though. That's already a good sign. Placement-wise, getting more points than they've been getting so far, but they need to start doing some damage, getting some exiles, because Majin's still on 0, and that's not what you love to see. But you know what? It's a good start. You know, first of all, staying alive, that's objective number 1, as always, and then you can start going for the damage in the exiles, but first, if you're not alive, you can't do damage. You can't get exiles. Majin, though, with this build, he's running both the conduit with the flight rune as well as the wind in the offhand, has that focus mana, has the fervor, has the thirsty. It's not a weird build, but it's definitely not a build that's completely meta that we see around everywhere. Mostly because missing that burst. He's missing that impact where you just get that first shot off and immediately like half their HP is gone. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have a fireball, doesn't have a toxic slap, doesn't have a boulder fall or a shockwave. It's just missing. No ice.
I like this. I like this build. I've seen this one somewhere. I'm not really sure where I've seen it. I think there's some guy, he makes videos, he plays this build every now and then, but pretty interesting build. Like you said, it doesn't quite have that burst in the offhand, but there's some potential with this one. He does have that flight rune, gives him a lot of potential to move around, and if we know anything about competitive Spellbreak or Spellbreak in general, that flight rune has a lot of potential to get some usage in that late game. Is going to pre-pop that lightning strike, definitely something you want to see out of a build like this, or just out of a class like Conduit. He gets that extra rune charge, and now, like you said, Majin, he's kept himself alive. He doesn't even have any epic like gear pieces, so you know, just hasn't been able to loot off of the, you know, the exiles of enemy players. But there's only 9 players left in total. Cass going to find an elimination and exile onto Bluefu, and now we just, you know, we're just kind of chilling. Majin is actually swapping out that flight rune. A very interesting decision there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because the Spring Step rune is so good. Honestly, like we were talking about it in halftime, where there's so much power in the Spring Step rune, especially with the dexterity and the runic fluency, and Casp is saying the same thing, saying, you know what, I've got the Stone Shaper up, I'm just going to do a Mega Verse on you right now. And so far, it's looking pretty good for Casp. Not really taking any damage themselves. They have plenty of health, plenty of resources still left, plenty of charges on everything, because they picked up the Knowledge Potion earlier. And Casp is just going to chase this player down. It's going to be playing with their food almost. But Casp, I mean, you do need to eventually start hitting these players. You can't just keep floating around aimlessly. And now finally they actually start to engage, but then the third party comes in and Caspa's like, well, didn't sign up for that, so I'm gonna take it back off again. And that's that's that we talk about sometimes, right? Sometimes it takes you too long to finish a fight or actually take an engagement, and that's when you get spotted out by either a third party or even just the first player, and you just lose track of where everything is going, and you have to start over. Has now found at least a lightning strike. If there's a player attached to it, that's another question. But Casp is going to be able to rotate into this new zone all the way up to the Arena of Elders. Far northwestern circle, this one is going to be. Not one you see often, but not one I'm disappointed by.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say is we need to give a shout out to Gadlig. We got Casp out here running Featherfall. Oh wait, no we don't. That's just Spring Step with Dexterity. Insane mobility, insane high ground potential. You just see him just completely soar in the skies. I literally thought, for a second I looked down at our player list. I said, oh, I didn't know Gadlig was in here, but no, it's just Casp. So we'll have to see what can happen here. Again, so much mobility coming out of this pairing. It's one of those like unique things that comes out from Spellbreak, right? Because like Runic Fluency, pretty common. You get a couple rune charges, cool. Dexterity, sure, you get a little bit of jump height, but the ability to pair that with Spring Step and the way that the mechanics of Spring Step work, it's just so unique. That in itself really carves out a particular playstyle. Miba is going to find an exile onto Coach PK. We have 8 players left alive in total, and again, Casp is one of our top performing players in this qualifier, and he's having a pretty slow game himself. But this still is going to be a pretty solid performance. This is going to be more points that he's able to grab as other players have fallen very early in this game, or just as the player count in total has diminished. That enemy player, he actually got a little bit of damage on, very low. Now he's looking to third party. This is going to be using that Featherfall potential. Majin finds 1, finds 2. Ouchers is going to go down. 7 players left alive.
Majin really needed those exiles. Needs to start getting some more damage and exile plates in, because just placement's not going to be enough. Only got 1. And you would think as well, with Megaverse already being out for quite a while, these exiles would be more for the picking. There would be more available to the rest of the player base. But since everything keeps dropping so fast, to such low numbers, even if there is no one like Megaverse to really start leeching all of that, is it really going to be more beneficial for you? Are you really going to find more exiles? For Majin, the answer so far has been no, but at least the placement is really good right now. Like, even off of this, Majin probably already puts himself into the top 15 just with this performance, which is pretty freaky if you think about it, but that's what it does when you have such a point vacuum on the top. He gets taken out by Solar Bear right here. Beautiful fireball hits that. Now Solar Bear back on the Frostborn with the Ice Lances, trying to figure out if he can hit some more long-range shots. Close range with the fireball. Hits 1, hits 2. Flash freeze out to protect themselves from some more damage. This is going to be Solar Bear trying to get this player out of it. It's 1 HP. It's barely anything, but doesn't quite hit that Ice Lance. Solar Bear going for some more shots here. Doesn't quite get any more exiles, but it's at least in a position where they can heal. Behind this ice cloud with the Thirsty, Solar Bear is looking very healthy. Positioning is good, going to the next zone, and Solar Bear looking quite peachy in this. 3 exiles, nice build, nice loot. Got the Fighter's Keeper, so all the scrolls are full. I mean, what really more do you want?
Yeah, I mean, really showing off the ability to just stay alive, keep himself consistent. And, one player we hadn't actually seen a lot of, M-Dash, still alive in this one, finds an exile onto Where's My Virginity. So 5 players left alive, and that's another player whose performance just in this one game might be able to propel them into a top 15 position. We do have Solar Bear, I believe, is going to be the one that, Miba is going to be fighting here, getting very low. Miba just kind of controlling this low ground as it is going to be closing around this bridge. So now it's all fight for position. So we are in our top 5 situation, and lots of mobility coming out. Miba is going to get that elimination onto M-Dash. So M-Dash not going to be able to stay alive, but still, again, a 5th place performance, maybe a couple of exiles in the pocket there. That might be one for, one for the scorecard. Definitely going to be adding up, and we'll have to see how this resolves. We have 4 players left alive. Miba just trying to stay alive here on the edge. Does have that Thirsty, but he is going to be closing the gap on the Solar Bear. That's going to be the Flash Freeze coming out. Big damage potential coming out, dropping him down to 54 HP as Miba just doing everything in his power to stay alive. And that's going to be Solar Bear controlling this bridge, is doing everything in his power. And yes, Solar Bear closes out the kill, is going to have control. The third party coming out, that's player 12. Again, we talked about it, might find the potential. The lightning strikes are going to be coming down. Miba is going to be falling at the hands, but Solar Bear with the shots. Oh my goodness, I was trying to keep up with the kill feed. My brain went all over the place, but Solar Bear in a position that does not look like he has any way he pulls it out, finds the shot, connects with it, brings it home, man.
Yeah, and for everyone who was wondering, the streamer mode player is most likely Plop, so Kukuzi. that it accidentally turned it on when they're doing a region switch. So they keep up that performance, and actually with this performance, Plup probably closing that gap with Megaverse quite a little bit because Megaverse went down relatively early, so didn't get too many exiles on there. So it's yeah, getting some points there. The gap might be closing a little bit, but that being said, of course, everyone is shifting now, and it's very interesting to see the different players that are getting these high placements in the different regions. M Dash, Majin, even a few other players as well. They really didn't do much. Even Miba, to a degree, didn't really do that much on NA. I mean, yeah, they got some points out, they got some decent placements because they're good players in general. But these are really games straight away on the EU servers where you just see them pop off so much more, get so much better placements than they did on NA. And we'll see if that trend continues, whether the region switch actually mattered that much.
Yeah, I'm watching the broadcast back on the side here, and I'm just looking back at that shot. And if you actually are able to catch it, there's like a single frame where, because of the camera, that third person camera positioning, right when Solar Bear goes to take the shot, it's like there was like a scroll behind him. Like you literally like it kind of just was like a flash instant boom. He hits the shot, it's over, and it's something like caster brain. I was like, I was trying to like lean into the kill feed a little bit to pull some information, and it just happened so fast. So Solar Bear, taking control of that bridge, he was able to like really hold that high ground potential. He used the flash freeze, catches one elimination, is in that third party position, is just looking for some shots, and then cleans it up. So really, really solid performance coming out from Solar Bear. And it's crazy because we talk about like, or at least I particularly talk about like the strength of classes, like tiering them out and putting them in different positions. And like two of the strongest classes that I've seen in this qualifier, well, I don't know if I can say the strongest, but at least having a solid performance is like Stone Shaper and Frostborn. So one thing you got to love to see is like the strength of classes coming out through the hands of talented players. You know what I mean? On pen and paper, maybe they're not the strongest classes in the game, but in the hands of a skilled player, man, it's a spectacle to see.
It really is. And Stone Shaper was already doing fairly well before the patch actually hit, before the chapter pass came out. And it's just still doing well, even though it has been slightly nerfed. A lot of it has to do with the way that the talents have been shaken up. Like the fact that certain talents aren't as good or maybe a little bit better than they were before really changes what talents work with what classes. So as much as Stone Shaper itself has maybe been nerfed, the mobility around it with that spring step room, the dexterity has all been allowed by this new balance change, with the recovery being nerfed, with some other things changing, and that's what you love to see. Get more variety in there, get more new patches, new builds in there. When we get the next chapter, I'm sure more will change once again. But for now, I'm gonna go straight away into game number 5. Only 2 games to go before we know the top 15 of this qualifier that are going to go on in the finals. Now, going to happen in 2 weeks for the Solos Element Qualifier Cup for the Cash Cup this winter.
Yeah, we're going to be jumping in here at the Himwood Ruins. Lots of action today on the south side of the map. We have a handful of players dropping at Timbren, so we'll have to see who gets to walk away from that situation. We saw Elpadog with like the dirty third party from earlier. It was pretty funny to see him just fly into the end of that fight and was able to take out, I think a player or two on that one. My memory doesn't serve me too well, but we're hanging out with Ouchers right now. 38 players left alive in total, and he's going to be rocking that ambidextrous build, the runic dexterity ambi. So very, very interesting. Actually, sorry, he's going to be on the Stone Shaper rocking offhand frost with ambi. So we'll see, that may not be the actual build he's using, but for now, going to be using that for some mobility. So we'll see what he puts in. I actually don't know that I've actually seen his perspective or paid enough attention to the build. So we'll see if we get some ambi storylines here, because I would love to break my my position of saying that I think that ambidextrous is terrible and have a reason to say that it's pretty decent. But look at this early game battle coming out from M Dash. Will he be able to use that dash rune in his inventory to find some kind of a turnaround here? He's going to be dropping down to about 40 HP, trying to maneuver through. Does have that fortitude, has kind of reticked onto himself, and a very interesting build. A 3-2-1 build, something that I like to mess around with myself, is going to be using Vigor, no recklessness to go along with it. We'll see if he can turn this around. Does have some of this high ground control now. He's going to be throwing out all of these projectiles. So it looks like he's turned it around for himself a little bit here. M-Dash might be able to just, walk away from this position and, find a little bit of stability in this game.
The stability is what it's really all about. I mean, that's really what the hallmark between, the greats and the good players are. It's that consistent ability to perform, because having one pop-off game can happen to literally anybody. It's about what you do with all the other games that cements you into these top places, yes or no. And whether it's the core gameplay that's happening right now, or whether it's that overall scoreline that you see, it all reflects back into each other. And you see M Dash now looking for that stability, looking for the consistency in their gameplay. And so far, they've been doing a pretty good job. Already moving up the scoreline, they were deep in the 20s, the 20th places before the halftime. And with that last game, they actually are probably going to rise almost to the top 15. Miba under a lot of pressure here, though, will just be taken out by Megaverse. That's Megaverse taking revenge for that last game where Miba took them out relatively early. And now Miba being put back in their place. Not on first place, that's Megaverse territory. They want to keep that position alive. It's taking a little bit of a shield pot before going back into this engagement against a player that actually still has more health and HP than them, Megaverse. And there's so much pressure here. Gets another fireball into the face. One more will likely do it. The boulder fall maybe hits a player once or twice, but that feather fall not the same as that spring step rune that Megaverse is so used to. Gets shot out of the sky by Soft. Beautiful ice lands, and that's Megaverse again going down fairly early. The lobby's clearing out fast, but not that fast.
Yeah, and Megaverse does fall down there, but again, doesn't really matter too much. If anything, it's just going to be a little bit more point potential room for the rest of the lobby. So although it doesn't matter for Megaverse, it could have an interesting or a profound effect on the rest of the player base. Now we do have streamer mode. Player number 3 going to be taking out Oucher, so Oucher's going to be falling down early, and now we get a new perspective, that of Trago, someone we haven't seen for quite a little bit, but has been keeping himself high up in the standings, was able to do really well in that first half, is going to be fighting out here, looking to find some kind of a win here. That crazy movement coming out, Trago with the dash rune does have that 2-2-2 build that he likes to run, is going to be using that Vanishing Mist. Will he be able to connect with it? Is going to find that Recloud. No, not connecting with the Recloud, but the shot coming out, and the Lightning Strike is going to land on a Trago. Trago finding himself in a tough situation. The gap closing, coming out from his enemy just a little bit, but they did not get in and stop any of these potion potentials. So Trago has found a nice, comfortable reset. Using that dash for that Recloud isn't going to connect with that first slap, and now just kind of hovering around, looking to see what he can do. The Lightning Strike coming out yet again, not going to connect, and that Fortitude is back. It's going to block one source of damage, and this is a brawl around this staircase right here. Trago is keeping himself healed up. He does actually have 2 Skulls of Thirsty, which is nice to note. Look at that. The Toxic Slap going to be landing down. It's going to actually slow his enemy down, and he's going to get that Recloud and a secondary slap. Trago looking to close it out in style. Oh, but no, the damage potential swinging back his way. Majin not able to close it out. What a crazy battle that was there, man, class.
That was ridiculously close. It's almost unheard of because that turnaround barely... I mean, it happens sometimes. Every time it happens, we just get super excited about it. It almost happened right there. Majin almost turning that around on Trago, but Trago finally hits that last toxic spray they really needed. Meanwhile, we do get Ilya actually taking down Lovell, as well as Plop. I think Plop is still in the streamer mode. That's why they're on streamer number 3. Player number 3 taking down Wizzy and Blue Flu. Just cruising around the map. Haven't seen much of Blue Flu. We see them in a kill feed every now and then, just being exiled by somebody. But it's good to see what build they're actually running that makes them get into the situation. It's a Pyromancer build with that toxic in the offense, so very Dragonfire heavy. But the problem is with this that I mean, I said it before we started. Pyromancer just doesn't feel like the most popular class right now, the most meta class. They see it straight over here with Blue Flu. Just basically exploding their own toxic cloud into their own face with that Dragonfire. Yeah, you do a lot of damage to your enemy, but you don't want to do that much self damage if you ever have the opportunity. Is in a pretty good spot though. Plenty of mobility to work with. That Fervor is definitely helping, and the dash one gives them some mobility because you've got the runic fluency going on anyways. But it is still tough to make that Pyromancer toxic work because everyone has gone so good at dodging this Dragonfire stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think that I wonder if that's like part of the build that he's actually looking for specifically. We'll have to see. Bluefu is going to be moving around though. Doesn't have any exiles, but he is able to keep himself alive. Now 18 players left. And again, this one's still cutting down rather quickly, but it's actually slowed down quite a bit. I mean, at this point, we'd be like encroaching like 9 players left, getting down into the single digits with some of the way that these players have been like flying around the map and just getting their exiles that they're looking for. It does look like Kemet not able to stay alive. So we're going to jump down one more player, And Bluefu, you know, he's in a decent position. He doesn't have the most charge or anything like that, but his build's looking pretty decent as we jump over to Casp, and it does look like going to be fighting against this Tempest that might be Neba, maybe. A lot of mobility coming out as it does look like Caps is trying to close the gap and looking to see if he can find some damage. And yes, he does have that big health advantage, but he just wants to land it. The shockwave coming out, the fireball not going to connect, but he's looking to close it. And yes, he does. That's actually Fluff and Nude's not going to be able to stay alive. So big damage. He was constantly in that pursuit. Fluff and Nude's on that Tempest class, not able to keep himself in it, unfortunately. But Cass going to put himself a third exile on the board, and this is really solidifying the position from Cass. Whether it's top 5, top 4, doesn't really matter. He's going to be most likely making his way to the finals here.
Definitely. In the meantime, AMV taking down Cooper. Coupe, I think it was Coop, something like that. Soth and Coach PK facing off. Soth coming out on top, and there's Trago going down to what we still think is Plop or Kukuzi. Alpadog taking down Sign. This lobby it's clearing out. It was like a little bit of a lull, but didn't last for more than 30 seconds. And Casp, with his dexterity stone shape build, just running around the map. We got the Spring Step Rune, is ready for everything they can throw at him. Just a few rarities maybe missing, but that's literally about it. Alpadog in this 1v1 with this other player on this hillside, almost gets into flash freeze, but actually able to dash away from that one. Spring Step Rune is ready. All he needs is a few good toxic slaps, maybe one good ice lands, but the firewall hits Alpadog. It's a lot of damage that goes down, even though they have have something to work with in terms of healing, and we're going to see the harmony with the fervor, but no other talents on Alpadog. That is that's curious.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. I mean, I think this is one of those situations like we talked about where, you know, Elpadog doing very well in the standings has had, you know, pretty much a guaranteed position here in the finals or, you know, from this qualifier to the finals. And now kind of like moving himself toward a class that he's comfortable on, playing that Frostborn class, but going to be trying out a talent setup that maybe he hasn't used before, or maybe just something that he wants to put into a bit of a blender to see how it comes out the other side. So Harmony Fervor definitely has that high DPS potential, but still gives him that kind of like durability and anti-CC that you would want from a Frostborn. Gets in the face of AMV, puts that flash freeze to work, and Elpadog finds himself yet another exile. Bluefu going to be falling in the kill feed to player 3 as well. So player 3 very, very aggressive. Going to be Elpadog on full retreat here. He's going to be jumping into the storm, but I think that honestly with the positioning here and the health that they might have seen on him, they may be looking at full chase. He doesn't have that thirsty talent. He's just doing whatever he can to stay alive, but this is looking kind of tough. So an interesting build coming out from Elpadog, but it makes sense. I mean, that's offhand slap potential, so high DPS potential, but also keeping that core fundamental harmony usage for the Frostborn build. And hey, look, he's just going to go ahead and skate out of here. He might be able to make it out if he's able to kind of ring himself around here. Might look for some health potions. He's going to get out if he doesn't find anything. Yes, he's going to drink it. Is it going to be enough? Is he going to take it? No, Elpadog goes down.
That zone started double ticking as soon as it closed, and Elpadog was just not able to get back into the storm. Also, wasn't really trying that hard, honestly. Like, there was a director route could have taken. But Solar Bear is going to be the one that is in the storm fighting the next player that they see. Like, can he hit this Icelands? Can he hit at least one of them? There's so many players around here. There's got to be a way. And there you go. There's Solar Bear. And this is textbook Solar Bear. Just sits at the sideline, throws out a few Icelands, and hits one on Soth, gets the exile on it. That's the first exile of the game for Solar Bear. But no, top 5 placement again. Solar Bear playing super conservative, but in a very effective way. Gets the damage out from range, gets an exile here and there, but mostly doesn't put themselves in a position where they can get exiled early. And that's also a strategy you can go with. You don't always need to be the highest scoring player in terms of eliminations or exiles and damage. Sometimes just sitting on the sideline, getting a few damage shots in, but mostly getting a lot of positioning out of it can be very valuable.
Yeah, it definitely can be. You do see Solar Bear taking a little bit of damage from, you know, this back hip, you know, over near the Arena of Elders. That player going to be pushing near towards him. Now, he doesn't have a ton of loot, you know, especially in the sense of his scrolls, not going to be very scrolled up. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get all that loot. But again, a top 5 positioning. He's, you know, guaranteed his spot in the finals most likely, and he's just looking to see if he can secure some more points here. We do have this enemy player, the boulder, going to be coming down, not going to connect with Solar Bear. Solar Bear just trying to carve out a comfortable position for himself. Does look like he might be getting contested for a little bit of this high ground. You do see that enemy player pushing his his way. Not going to use that icicle to float, just might continue to reposition around the map, and that's definitely the strength of the Frostborn class. He has that harmony, even that lightning going to be striking onto that alacrity trail, but he can just continue to move. So Solar Bear really showing the difference between oh my goodness, boulder after boulder. It doesn't even matter what I was trying to say, Mana Class. It just looks like Solar Bear has that big pressure coming his way, and as far as repositioning with alacrity, well, a mountain is not going to help with that at all. But Solar Bear kind of keeping it slow, trying to hang out here on the edge with this player, whoever this is not going to let him breathe.
He's having a bad day. All the fireballs are just coming his way. Solar Bear trying to run away, but there is a beautiful boulder fall straight onto his head as well. Solar Bear under so much pressure right now. 4 other players in this lobby, and at least half of them seem to be chasing Solar Bear. Solar Bear just now looking for a position to stand on to maybe get some ice lances off, but it's super annoying when this environment doesn't really give you a lot of long sight lines. Tries to go for the flake, tries to go for the close range fireball, but if you're on 15 HP all the way up to 20, maybe you're not going to have a lot of room to work with. Ilya does go down late, but there's Casp finally getting the exile on the Solar Bear. Casp in the top 3 together with Plop and what looks like, I don't know, just one other player. I actually don't remember who's still in here.
Yeah, it looks like Plop going to be getting the kill onto Cass. So now a 1v1, the last 2 players left alive, and he has moved over to that conduit build. Like I said, this is just about the exact build that I was seeing him run in a couple of the games that I just bumped into him on. Going to be running that Runic Fervor build, not using Escapist, but does have that Recklessness. So lots of potential damage coming out. Does have that offhand fire and just a ton of mobility. We do see what could be a Toxicologist here on the high ground. Lots of spraying coming out. It looks like the Fortitude is going to be knocked off. So Plop looking to see if he can close this out. Not going to blow up that cloud just yet. He's not, really relying on that, but he's going to be using a lot of this mobility. Here's the Recklessness potential. He does have 2 Shadow Steps. Enemy Flash Freeze coming down. This is a Toxicologist that's looking to put out the damage. M-Dash out of nowhere, had no idea that M-Dash was still alive, finds themselves in that first place position. Not sure what the exile count was, but regardless, that's got to be good for the standings. And wow, man, I got to say, Maniclus, I have to jump to this thought because it's still fresh in the mind. I was so tilted watching Solar Bear's perspective. Like, I'm not even Solar Bear. I'm not even playing the game. My hands are, I'm chilling here watching the broadcast and commentating over the broadcast. But oh my gosh, the Stone Shaper, whoever that was, I think it might have been Ilya, would not leave him alone. It was so frustrating.
No. Just get those boulder falls on you, get those shockwaves on you. That was that was definitely. I mean, that's part of the game, right? Like sometimes you just want to shoot at somebody. If there's no one else around, you got to find the first moving target you see. Especially if they're already fighting someone else, they can't really be fighting you. So yeah, great heads up play, of course. Yeah, that was game 5. Crash, you were almost at the end. That's insane.
So
fast.
I'm not gonna lie, this is getting a little bit meta here, but I'm looking at the chat. Plop is QQZ saying it's not him. I feel like it is. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same outfit. Like maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. This is all just a giant conspiracy, but it's the same outfit. Regardless, whoever that player is, they get themselves doing well. They got themselves second place. So who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
There's definitely some speculation as to who it is. There's definitely a lot of it's not Plop. So we're happy to concede to that. But there is definitely a someone, at least with the streamer mode, entering this entire endeavor. So I mean, it doesn't really matter. They haven't won any games yet, but they might be disturbing something on purpose. We'll see. We'll go into game 6 fairly shortly, of course. Last game of the night. This is the one. If you haven't gotten full 4 good scored games, well scored games yet, this is the one where you can get that 4th score in, or at least any score in at all. Maybe some you haven't really been doing well at all. So I'm curious to see where this is going to shake up. Of course, after these 5 games, we're going to have a fairly interesting mix of standings going on, but a lot can still shift. We saw how much has been shifting over these past 2 games, and the 3rd game of the EU side is probably going to be no different.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah. I don't know. The streamer mode thing's got me a little bewildered, but hey, regardless,
Yeah.
we've seen a bit of consistency coming out from Casp. Again, and Casp definitely securing his position. Elpadog most likely securing his position. There's a good handful of players that are definitely locked into, top 5 to top 8 positions that are definitely going to be moving into the finals for sure. But the rest, I still feel like there's still a little bit of room, a little bit of wiggle room to make something happen. All it takes is one good game, and that really could propel you. So we're gonna have to see, who decides to step up to shine. Again, M Dash finding themselves in first place, someone that we hadn't seen a ton of today, but is really locking it down. That last game is going to be able to stay alive, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. We got this last game coming up.
Yeah, and the last game that we've got, I mean, essentially what this means, right? If you get a good score, is if you get a better score than your lowest two scores, then one of those scores, gets bumped, and you essentially get more points. That's how it works. That's how standings work. And I mean, yeah, there's so much room for shift still. Even in that, the top few spots, there's still some room for shifting. Maybe not for falling out the qualifiers, which is really what this is all about. But still, there's some room for shifting. We're getting other players up there and getting acknowledged for their consistent performance the entire night. That being said, though, we've seen so much variety in builds, both in classes, in talents, in runes, the way that players execute all these different plays. I mean, I still remember that Chrono Master play that we had in the middle of like the first half somewhere. That was great to see as well. I mean, they went down straight after to a third party, but
Yeah.
still got two exiles out of that. And those adaptations, you cannot always get the exact loot that you want straight on drop, or maybe sometimes even for a few minutes. You need to be able to adapt to that as well. Use something else to your advantage, whether it's your offhand gauntlet, whether it's a different rune than you're maybe used to. You got to still diversify. As much as we talk about meta, there's still an idea of RNG in there, so the random number generation that doesn't always let you play your own meta.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, like, at what point does someone say, maybe my off drop hasn't been working? I got to play a stronger off drop class. Like, there's so many little things like that that definitely could play a factor because, anybody that might, know playing Conduit off drop or playing Frostborn off drop, sometimes you're just completely dependent on that first chest that you find. But we'll see what happens. Speaking of first chest, it looks like this player going to be moving over towards theirs, find themselves a knowledge pot first. It's going to be Lucas Grabil. I don't know how to say that, but that's what I'm going with for now. But 3-2-1 build again, another one of those builds that definitely interesting. Not something you see on the Stone Shaper very much. But speaking of Stone Shaper, we're going to be moving over toward Casp. Casp again, one of those players that's definitely locked in, going to be fighting here, trying to see if they can secure this exile. Looks like they're getting in some good damage. Soth going to find a couple of exiles in the kill feed for himself as well. Casp going to finish that one up, and we are just looking at one of our guaranteed finalists. I think at this point, it's safe to say.
Yeah, very much so. Trago gets the exile on the tiny horse as well. Of course, playing on the EU servers, we are running into a situation where it's getting up to about 2 a.m. on a Sunday. Not everybody might be playing anymore, so we're going to get some non-actual players in this lobby. But that's some exiles that you can mop up if you're if you run into them. It's a little bit of luck right there. Miba, though, over in this cloister area on the east of the map, one of the new points of interest where actually quite a little loot is being able to be found because of all the epic chests. Gets another exile on the board. That's the first one, and the lobby is still relatively filled. 31 players. I feel like normally we'd already be talking about at least 25. So maybe they have slowed down. Maybe this is the caution finally kicking in for the players that still need those scores very desperately.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see. Looking at the kill feed, we do have Love Dodo going to be falling at Miba. So Miba, he's actually changing up his build a little bit, playing a bit of a different one. And we have Lavelle here at Dust Bowl, keeping it consistent with his drop. Is going to find an exile here. Most likely should be able to beam that player out of the sky. But, one thing I did see was Plup got himself a kill. He's not on that streamer mode, so who knows? The mystery continues. But Lavelle is going to go to him and grab himself a kill. Ilya doing the same, as well as Solar Bear. So looks like Lavelle just kind of, again, keeping his drop consistent, keep sticking to his game plan. And I think, hey, that's really, really important. When you have a strategy, you're able to stick to it. You can find some success and make some of those adjustments. So Lavelle, winner of, I think, was game number 2, if I remember correctly, maybe game number 3. But yeah, so game number 2 winner is going to be looking to find himself some more points, see if he can continue his run through this final game now. Still rocking the conduit, keeping himself pretty consistent, using this tracking build. And oh, look at that. Soth actually falling at the hands of Plup. So Plup, he's in the game. I don't know. Coach PK is falling to Meba. We got some kills coming out here, man, of class. It looks like the speed is picking up a little bit there. Bluefu in the kill feed. We're down to 23 players. This is going to be that first zone still, but Lavelle still just finding his little comfy loot. So we're gonna be jumping around the map here shortly. Just you never know. We might find some action. Sign, one of our players gets themselves a kill in the kill feed onto Ant Marples. That might be a bot. They're one of our little fills in, but we'll see what kind of action we get into with this last game. Last one, we're gonna be picking out our top 15 players that will be moving on to the finals.
Top 15 moves on to the finals, gets to play for that. I think it's close to $150 for the prize pool you get. That's great. It's great. It's great to get that there's some cash coming out here for these cups, as we see Super Soaker Sosa trying to still qualify for this one to have a shot at that cash prize. Beautiful lightning strike here on this high ground, definitely controlling the area fairly well. This Halcyon area is always very contested when it comes to these high grounds, to these towers, to these bridges, these walkways in between. And it's good that Super Soaker Sosa has an idea of how to play around those. Doesn't want to keep fighting this fight, though. Is backing off, takes a little bit of heals, take a little bit of shield pots, and now looking for maybe a re-engagement. But you would think that they'd be a bit more aggressive, considering the scores that we're currently looking at. Super Soaker Sosa is exactly in 15th place, or at least close to that. So they're really on that border. If they get a good game, they can just cement their qualification just by placing decently here.
Yeah, and just by looking at that enemy outfit there, it could be streamer mode, it could be Plup. Who knows what kind of tinfoil hat I have to wear to try to figure out this puzzle. But looks like Super Soaker Sosa not necessarily backing off. He wants to find some kind of a win condition here because he knows he needs some points, just like you were saying, kind of riding that line, wants to close the gap a little bit. If they can find themselves some comfortable points, at least that'll be room to put themselves higher up and feel a little bit comfortable. Elpadog and Negaverse, two of our big point leaders, themselves some exiles in the kill feed as well. You do see we swap over to Elpadog. Looks like he finished this fight, but he's playing very reluctant. So most likely an enemy player just above him. You do see that. Looks like the Warlock's going to be coming in. That's AMV just fully finishing that third party, whatever the case may be. We do have another player here on this bridge just behind that little castle tower. Trago going to find himself an exile as well. So AMV takes out Elpadog, but again, Elpadog most likely sitting pretty, and it looks like AMV taking a bit of damage. Does pop out that flash freeze. No, not going to connect with that Ice Lance. That's a big mistake, and then pops the Dragon Fire in his face with that offhand fire, or that fire in his main hand rather. So a little bit of an outplay there, unfortunately, kind of outplaying himself there. AMV is going to go down at the hands of Sign, so we do jump over to Sign. He's going to go ahead and heal himself back up, but oh man, such a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, and of course, when you look at the current placements, there's less than 15 players left, so anybody who's in the top 15 after Game 5 that is currently still alive is most likely qualified, guaranteed. And that's good. I mean, it's good that we already know that for a few of these players. Not sure if they know where they're actually placed at the moment or where they're just playing. But it's good to be aware of. One of these players that we just saw was actually AMV. AMV is number 10 after Game 5. Definitely in a great spot to just still be qualified now, especially when you look at the place where there's 12 players in the lobby. And Ilya, of course, was almost already guaranteed a qualifier, but this is just cements it that we will see them again in the finals later on. But Ilya now is looking for exiles. He's a bit hungry, but maybe win a game out of this one. But it will also be great to feel that we cannot always guarantee that something like that happens. We'll see what they choose to do. They're almost fully read up on their scrolls. They have the Tempest build with the stone in the offhand. Like the reverse Darkbreakers build, as you could potentially call that. But but the fervor and the recklessness, that is a gutsy build. Some damage boosts, some damage potential definitely coming out of that. And that could be really cool with the wind shears, but it only really procs when you lose that armor.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how if he pulls out some of that reverse Darkbreakers. I actually think I remember seeing Darkbreakers put out a video about how you can actually use a little bit of tech. I'm not gonna lie, I really hadn't looked into it or don't even know how it works, but you can actually get like a squall shockwave if you know how to time it right or position it right. So we'll see if that's something Ilya's messing around with, because yeah, he usually uses the Stone Shaper. So I think we've got a little bit of trickery coming out from Ilya here. We'll see what he does with it, unless this is just a means to an end and he ends up swapping out that offhand. But this might be just some kind of a trolly kind of high damage shockwave build. We'll see what comes out of this one, because I'm definitely keeping my eyes here. I'm writing my notes from our next video on this one. But Trago sitting up on the high ground has himself a couple of exiles, already down to 12 players. I feel like I didn't even recognize that, but Trago keeping himself consistent. You know, he's very comfortable with his build, even if he has to make some changes in terms of play style or aggression level, whatever the case may be. Trago keeping himself in this one, still rocking that toxicologist class. Loves that fortitude. You know, even in solos where scavenging might play, you know, a little bit higher up in terms of viability, is going to be using that fortitude. Now swapping to the Wolf's Blood rune, very interesting, just using it to kind of look around. You can see he's using it obviously just for this little bit of information in his area. Going to swap back over to that dash rune, and we'll see if he's able to find anybody. Doesn't look like anybody was nearby, so Trago just kind of keeping it chill. We're going to be moving over to Plup. Did find an exile onto Sign, but now again still 12 players left alive. Plup does take a little bit of damage here. The lightning bolt's going to be coming out from that enemy player. We'll see what he decides to do, as he's just trying to find a position to reset.
Sometimes all you can do is step away. The only way forward is to move backwards one step, or at least take a little bit of a break and recover first. Plup goes straight over with to the high ground of this Halcyon area, making sure that no one just gets into the castle, but doesn't really need to worry too much about that. It's been ruined, so I don't think anyone's really ruling over it anymore. Plup to be able to just stroll across these grounds, trying to find some enemy mages to deal with. And there's already one of them. Tries to shoot the ice lance, doesn't quite hit it, as well as the fireball, kind of going almost to no reason. I don't think it was even used as a shield. Is looking for the ice lance shots, maybe hitting one, maybe hitting two, but that's at least the fireball that connects. Let's see who comes out on top of this one, as Plup is finally in engagement with a player trying to get this out of the way. Gets a bit of damage into their face. Tries to just hit straight away, heal back up. Doesn't even have to thirsty, so it's actually quite a long process of taking this armor shard. Does get it off, and now it looks like their opponent finally figured out where they were going to go, but then had already healed up. So there's no link you can follow for Casp. Casp is looking for a for a little bit of heals, and then maybe for another engagement. There's 2 exiles on the board, so they're probably going to be fine. And this is really just a game that's turned into bragging rights. Nothing else is really on the table. Just, you either win or you lose.
Yeah, and I mean, Plup is just padding the stats here. I mean, definitely keeping himself in there. If we haven't seen him for a couple games, then he's definitely just looking to add to whatever lead that he did have at a certain point. Maybe he was taken out early in a couple of these games. Does look like that's going to be Plup right across from Casp. And unfortunately, Ilya goes down. I don't get to see whatever he was trying to do there, but Ilya, probably again another one of those players that has plenty of points on his side, so we are going to be still watching Casp. Again, another player that's kept it very consistent, was able to put himself on the board very early, and is keeping this top 10 position, top 8 position now, able to get himself some more points as well. Still rocking that Stone Shaper. I think his first performance that he did well, he was rocking the Toxicologist, a little bit of build variance, and Neba, same thing. He's going to be rocking Stone Shaper, and this is Focus Mana Fervor Stone Shaper, so some big hits, a little bit less mobility, doesn't have that dexterity spring step, but still spring step for that fight potential, that bedrock slam down potential. Now Casp versus Meba. It's going to be Stone Shaper v Stone Shaper. Third party potential is definitely high in a fight like this. The boulder is going to be coming down, not going to connect, but Meba putting out a lot of damage from his perspective, as a lot of that damage does not connect from the side of Casp, but Meba has that focus mana, that fervor, that spam potential is definitely very high, but he's got to move now on this low ground, a very dangerous position to be in.
It's going to be super dangerous to be in that position if someone knows that you're there and they're holding the high ground against you. Luckily, that wasn't the case for Meba. Meba can just keep strolling around this grass field, finally running into an enemy player. Has, of course, the boulder charges to do something from range, just a boulder fall. But yeah, maybe he just wants to go for a vault. Maybe he just wants to go for some items. Doesn't really need it, but scrolls are full. Items are looking good. Really, the rune is the only thing you maybe want to change. and that isn't even that big of a deal because Spring Step's so good. We do see Solar Bear in a 1v1 engagement with another player. You can just see, as much as Solar Bear plays that Frostborn, they can just throw the fireballs in a 1-2 combo. They're down as well. Doesn't need to use that Ice Bow. And now, Solar Bear is going to go from exile to another fight to maybe to another exile, but that's not going to happen because Miba, correctly capitalizing on that third-party opportunity, is now going to be able to go over this cliff back into the smallest circle. 4 players left alive, and Crashy, it's heating up in here. A lot of fireballs flying around.
Yeah, a lot of fireballs indeed. Megaverse was actually one of those players that we hadn't really seen in the kill feed much this game, but he was still in that top 8 positioning. Solar Bear finds himself 3 more exiles before getting taken down by Miba, but Miba staying alive, like you said. MDAC, another player, keeping at least the placement consistent. No exiles here, but is staying alive using this Vigor build, just keeping that HP total high. Has a lot of mobility, but unfortunately is going to fall at the hands of Plup. Miba going to find a kill onto Lovell, and I believe it's going to drop down to the final 1v1. Last 2 players left alive. It's going to be Plup versus Miba. They're going to be flying around. It looks like we have Stone Shaper versus Pyromancer, the last game of the day. Oh, lots of damage coming out towards the side of Plup. So it does look like Miba was able to close that gap. Is going to be looking to do the same, but look at that, a gigantic fireball coming out from the hands of Plup. If he lands that snipe, if he gets some kind of, damage potential, he might step on the offensive, but here's the Spring Step coming out from Miba, so he's looking to close the gap here. Again, Plup just keeping it kind of fast and loose. He's going to drop down on the low ground here. He did not see him. He did have that Ignite ticking, giving him all that information to see where that enemy player was, helping him make that decision. Is going to be looking for an Ice Lance, not going to connect. The Boulder Fall not connecting onto Plup as well, but Plup holding that high ground position, does have that con flag, might be able to get some of that residual damage, that splash damage, but look at this. It's just back and forth with these Spring Steps. The high ground control is just ever changing. Now Plup on the back foot. Miba has the high ground control. Will he be able to close it out? One shot for both of these players. Then Ice Lance potential coming out, but no, Miba has the firewall on the ground. Plup is not able to step out of it. He's going to fall at the hands of Miba. So Miba takes the last and final game. Surely most likely going to put themselves, all of these last handful of players, going to be, final potential and finalists for, the end of this qualifier. But we got to see, man. We still got to see, because there's still surely some of those positions that shook around this whole last game.
That is undoubtedly gonna happen, and it's gonna be super exciting, at least super tense for quite a few players that are in that roughly, what is it, maybe 10, maybe 11 to 23 mark, because there is not a whole lot of points between them. You're talking 200. I don't think that's as big as a difference as it comes, but there's definitely going to be some shifts in those locations between those different players, and that could lead into a very interesting finals when this first qualifier, of course, is qualified 15 players. Now, of course, we're going to have a qualifier next week as well, where the same thing will happen again, just with different players, and we'll see what it ends up in the finals. But for this one, I mean, there's a few things we have to mention, Crashy, as like what the summary of tonight. One of them is Megaverse. Then the second one is also Megaverse. And then after that, everything else, right? Like that's kind of what it comes down to, because they weren't even fighting for second anymore at this stage. Megaverse almost has enough points to take that spot as well if he wants.
Yeah, it's a pretty dominant performance coming out from Megaverse. But one thing to note is that we had a different winner on every single game, but we did see some placement consistency coming out. It was, I'm not gonna lie, just from my perspective, it was kind of hard to paint the story of who was also getting good consistent exiles. It does feel like everybody was getting around 3, 4, 5 exiles if they're able to make it to end game. So you're seeing some of that play consistency. But again, when you contrast that to the performance of someone like Elpa and Plup, who's consistently making it to end game, getting a bunch of kills as well, it's really hard to kind of like at face value look at it and see who is really putting themselves high up. I mean, even myself, without peeking at the scores, I'm just not really sure who is going to finish in that anywhere between 10 and 15th place. It's really just hard to say. So we do have some standings that will be coming in just a bit, or actually we'll have the top 5 standings, and then if you want to see the rest of the scores, definitely make sure you jump into the Discord to see that total standings, get that full picture of all who qualified out of all of our players here, which we do have quite a fun qualifier, but we have to have that final reveal, and really we're revealing at least like 4 positions, maybe only even 3, because I don't think that much is shaken up. But GG's to all of our competitors today, and a huge shout out to the production team, everybody over at Element, Mana Class, as always, being the co-caster with me today. We held it down today. I feel pretty happy about my first cast here in 2021. we'll see if we can make a great year out of this one. So
Yeah, looking forward to the rest of this year already. It's going to be great, but let's see. Do we have the scores? We're definitely looking forward to it. The numbers 1 through 5. Number one, of course, is Megaverse. It's definitely not a question, but who's going to take spot 2, 3, 4, 5? It looks like number 2 is going to be Plup. Number 3, Solar Bear. Number 4, Meba. Number 5, Casp. And we have Elpa Dog in the sixth place. Trago in number 7, and then afterwards we get to Ilya, Lovell, Coach PK, AMV, Blue Flu, Fluffin Noodles, M Dash, and Ouchers. That's the top 15 that we're running away with from this qualifier. And that means that especially players like M Dash that were on, I think it was place 24 after that first half, made their way back up into the top 15. That's very impressive, honestly. And that just shows you what a little ping can do sometimes.
yeah, and we it's funny. I'm looking at chat. Somebody says, "Do you think Megaverse qualified?" I mean, even in that last game, like I don't know what like his play was like because we didn't really get to pay attention to him too much, but he was even still in top 10 in that last one. So still just
Yeah.
like snuffing out some of the points. And the crazy thing is that's like for sure probably one of his throwaways, like a top 10 performance where he just doesn't need the points at all. But we'll be pulling up that final top 5 so you can kind of see how close it was in there. But some really good performances, some crazy shots, some crazy plays coming out from all kinds of these competitors. Again, just to highlight some of the few moments that I can remember, like Ilya making that charge over early on in the qualifier to kind
Yeah.
of find himself a big reset. Solar Bear getting like back-to-back kills, Megaverse flooding the feed up entirely. So a really, really crazy qualifier, very aggressive qualifier. And that's, man, whenever people ask or whenever you can find an opportunity to sell someone on Spellbreak, it's like the combat does it almost enough on its own. But just talking about the crazy speed of the game and how, this is not your battle royale where you can sit behind a corner, for 5 minutes or pick yourself a building. Like everything's hollowed out, everything's mobility, everything's about landing those shots and perfecting your play, carving out your play style with your class. And I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a blast. It really is. It's definitely when you watch people that can do things that my boomer fingers can't pull off. So I got to appreciate it for
Yeah.
sure.
100%. There's so much going down there. Like that's what it's all about. Like, there's so much variety, so much skill that goes into Spellbreak, especially when you play it at this level. That you're almost never gonna see the same plays being pulled off in succession every single time. Like, yeah, players have their own styles, players have their own preferences for things, but the fact that there are so many different players in each lobby, there's so many different outcomes of everything. That means that you always get a different situation, a different place on the map where they're fighting. There's just enough variety for it, and that makes it super exciting for us to look at, because then we don't have to say the same thing 50,000 times, even though we still do. It's it's really one of those situations. But yeah, I mean, we've listed the scores, we've had the games, we know who's qualified. What else is there to do, Crashy?
I think we can go ahead and pull up that final graphic for the top 5 so we can get that solid illustration. If you do guys want to peek into the top 15 finalists yet again, be sure to jump into the Element Discord. Shout out to everybody that came through, everybody in chat hanging out from the community. We love you guys. We appreciate y'all. All the competitors put on a great show, but we got Megaverse in first place again at 1457. Second place going to be Plup at 1090. Third place, Solar Bear at 942. Fourth place is going to be Meba at 924, and fifth place is going to Casp at 863. So huge congratulations to our top 5 finalists here in this qualifier. 10 players under them also going to be moving themselves toward the finals. So we appreciate you guys, man of class. You have any closing thoughts?
I mean, it's really simple, guys. If you like what you're seeing here, you're like, wait, I can play Spellbreak just as good or better than these guys. Come and prove it. Join the Element Discord, join scrims, the tournaments that are coming up in the future. If you want to know more about Element in general, always a good place to just join the Discord, maybe follow the Twitter or the Twitch channel, maybe the YouTube channel for some educational videos. There's plenty of content and competition and Spellbreak related things that are happening around Element. So if you're not following any of it yet, this is your opportunity. Join the revolution, or well, rather just join the community. Just have fun with us. We're getting a few subs in here and there throughout the broadcast. You're greatly appreciated as well, Coach PK. Just happened to be everyone else that we've missed. We sometimes shout them out. We do stream scrims. We actually do look at chat, etc. Sorry that we couldn't really focus on that this time around, but We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you everyone for watching. Thanks to players for playing. And don't forget, there's more qualifiers next week, as well as some stream scrims just sprinkled out throughout the rest of the days. So we'll see you in the next one.